and a good way in which to enter these, as I said, 2 very expensive months of the year. By the way, if you want to give us a call and tell us, does this in any way change any of your spending plans? I wouldn't have thought 25 basis points on its own will make a vast difference, but nevertheless, it is at least something, and something heading in the right direction. 16 minutes past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
So we've got lots to talk about today, lots to inquire about, lots to think about. And when it comes to thoughts, often the most interesting thoughts are those random ones. We were talking about dinner and dinner parties, and somehow, I'm not quite sure why, but the topic came up about what do you do if you've had people round? It could be for a bride, could be for any meal, dinner, it doesn't have to be dinner. But you wake up the next morning with a seriously upset stomach, feeling rotten. Do you call your guests and say, hey, listen, I'm a little bit embarrassed by this, but I haven't been feeling great. Are you all okay? Or do you just go, and, until next time, and then perhaps wonder why they decided not to come? Michael says, I think it would be worth the effort to find out, even though it is complicated. Karapo Chale, what's your approach to the situation, if indeed it's arisen?
Yeah, well, I'm hosting, and I also have family members with me that live with me, and the next morning I'm the only one feeling off the weather.
Yes.
I wouldn't call because, if everybody else in the house is okay, probably the others they're fine, so I wouldn't. But if everyone in the house wakes up and they're feeling and they were just running to the toilet, then obviously I'll do that courtesy call and say, guys, we have a situation here at home. Everybody's not feeling well. We had dinner. How are you guys feeling?
Yeah.
That's the situation. But if I'm the only one, then I'll just let it slide.
And if you've been hosted
Yes.
and you're not feeling great, do you ever give him a ring?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'll just... maybe if they call me
Yes.
and say, how are you? Did you get home safe? I'll be like, yeah, I got home safe. And then, I've got a tummy bug, but I'm sure it will pass.
Okay. So
I guess, just...
a little round loop, but certainly with the message absolutely clear. Vutomi says, in black communities, that's business as usual. We call nobody. We just eat bananas and stay strong. I didn't know bananas were good for an upset stomach. I was 1 days old when I first learned that. Thank you, Vutomi. How about you, Refuwe Letua? What's your approach to these matters that can be awkward?
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. So if I'm hosting, and I'm judging myself for saying this out loud, but I said anyway, I'm in a safe space, I give a disclaimer: eat at your own risk.
Oh, as they come through the door.
No, people are dishing out, guys, just know, there are challenges, but eat at own risk. But luckily, I've not had anyone come back to say, Refuwe, your food has made me sick.
So here's the thing: when you say eat at your own risk, does everyone go, ha ha ha, Refuwe, she's got such a lovely turn of phrase? Or do people look at you with and that spoon that's dug really deep where you almost need 2 hands to get it out of the potato salad or whatever? Do you find that people adjust their portions after your public health warning?
So I have mixed reactions. I have people like, haha, you're such a kidder.
Yeah.
And then others are like, no, usually when she kids, there's just an underlying
Oh my goodness.
topic. So I just do, people don't get sick, but I always just give it as a disclaimer. Listen, eat at your own risk. Just know, make sure you have medical aid or some sort of activated charcoal.
Knowing her, I think it will be just a funny, humorous thing.
Probably, but you have to make sure that I've covered the grounds that I did warn people.
And those longer term plans of a restaurant, how they're taking shape.
Not at all.
Because it's a good name for a restaurant. Eat at your own risk. I bet you a lot of people would come just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Maybe only once, but okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. At least, John, I like that we're safe with each other. We can tell the truth.
Yes.
With that kind of team. So, guys,
I think I would want to know, actually, now that I think about it, if people were unwell. Because, for example, maybe you got meat at a specific butchery or there's something, it gives you a heads up to say, actually, maybe got to sort something out here because that didn't work out well. Anyway, your thoughts, please. 072 7021 702 011 883 0702. It's 21 minutes past 3. Let's give you some traffic guidance. I don't know how complicated the roads are with G20? Is that taking effect yet, Karabo, or is that still a day away?
No, definitely there's road closures here and there, but then at this stage, nothing. We had earlier in the Kempton Park area, the R21 southbound was closed off to traffic between Atlas and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. That's as you head into OR Tambo International Airport, but that has been cleared. Traffic is now free-flowing. But however, on the R24 westbound, that's in the Isando Kempton Park area, at this stage, we have an accident scene, and it's causing about a 20-minute delay between Barbara Road and OR Tambo International Airport. Also heading into the Joburg CBD bumper-to-bumper traffic in Amalgam on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. In Calvin Alex area, roadwork still causing heavy delays heading towards Bedford View. That's the N3 southbound. Between the Butlu Interchange and London Road. In Bryanston, traffic heavily backed up on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. And in Protea Lane, Soweto, traffic sluggish N12 westbound approaching the R558. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for real estate agencies, law firms, computer services, and more. Yakolin?
We saved a lot of money when we switched over from another insurance company to Business Outsurance. We've had some claims and they were friendly and efficient and paid out when they promised.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Progress builds. It moves and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo American, mining potential, building beyond.
In business, SMEs on the move
need an Absa Business Revolve credit card to ensure everyday expenses are always well managed.
Absa gets it.
You know, everybody's trying to make sure that they've got enough stock to meet client demand, but also balancing that to ensure that they don't have too much stock. And then, you know, really trying to make sure that they maintain profit margin. So we recognize this at Absa, and I think this is exactly why we've developed this Business Revolve credit card product. And I think the key standout from a benefits and features perspective is that this credit card offers up to 55 days interest-free. So what that means is that a lot of these businesses will be able to buy stock now and only really have to pay for that stock in 55 days' time, freeing up that working capital.
702 Drive with John Perlman was in conversation with Pascal Albrecht,
Executive for Commercial Issuing Product at Absa Business Banking.
Visit primemediaplus.com to hear more with Absa on 702.
Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. Absa, your story matters.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 25 minutes past 3. This comes in from Ronell. And if you live out in the area of Lanseria, maybe you want to call in and give us some feedback as well. Here's Ronell. He says, wow, John, you should see the air traffic coming into Lanseria. It's been non-stop. Would be interesting to hear how the controllers are coping. My Muldersdrift cottage roof is trembling. Any ways in which you are already directly affected by the G20? I mean, it is building up to a very, very big weekend. There are heads of state, some of whom I think may arrive tomorrow, but I would imagine, and Ronell seems to be confirming that most of the people, heads of state and so on, are probably coming in today and getting themselves set up with a day's break and a day of planning. And then the sessions, we're going to bring you coverage on 702 on Saturday. The program is an interesting one, although I have to say a lot of the sessions are closed. A little bit later in the show, we're going to be talking about the response of South Africa to what the United States said. Now, the US, and I'm sure you have heard this in our bulletins through the day and perhaps from other news sources as well, the United States is saying without them, there cannot be anything presented as a G20 statement at the end of the summit. South Africa is saying, actually, no, we will issue. It's called a G20 declaration. I must get my terminology right here, but President Cyril Ramaphosa is saying, well, actually, no, there will be a declaration at the end. Two big questions that arise out of that. The one is that there might be a declaration, but substantially watered down and reflecting perhaps the consensus of a group of countries, some of whom are not keen to get into any more scrapes with the White House and the US President Donald Trump. So that's the one possible scenario. And then the other would be that, people rally behind South Africa, at least in sufficient numbers, for something to be put out as a declaration of what the G20 has achieved. Maybe you've got a view on that as well. Give me a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Nick says, I don't need a rate decrease at exclamation mark. At 65, I've just paid off all my debt, but it still costs a fortune to just live. And then the tax man not only charges me for interest on my savings that I've already paid tax on, and to rub salt into the wounds, government departments squander it. Yeah, I can see that there are quite a few people who have very differing views on this. 702 Drive, 28 minutes past 3.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
10th of April 1993. Janus Valus walks up to Chris Honey's driveway and shoots 4 times. Retired High Court Judge Chris Nicholson says that story is only the cover page. In his new book, Who Really Killed Chris Honey, he argues Valus was the shooter, but not the architect.
Nelson Mandela favored him as his successor, and then there was another camp led by Thabo Mbeki, so there was keen rivalry between the two factions.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 Summits 2025. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks, Telkom is connecting families, small businesses and young people to new opportunities. They're helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
Smart Steve from Momentum. Hello.
Stevie, it's Clinton Myers, the Minister of National Treasures.
Mr. Minister, how can Momentum Insure help you?
This economy is not helping with the cost of my gusheshe, my tires, man.
Just get Momentum Insure's safety returns and get up to 30% cash back, even if you claim.
Is it true?
Stru's Bob, Mr. Minister. Visit momentum.co.za or call 0860 006 784. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is an authorized non-life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Koketso Mano is senior economist at Koketso. How important is food price inflation to all of this? I mean, food inflation seems to be dipping.
Definitely, and that's the main surprise for many of us, and why we expected slightly higher inflation, and we were surprised at the downside, which is a good thing by food and non-alcoholic beverages. Seemingly, there's still a little bit of deflationary pressure there if you look at the month-on-month changes, and primarily from your fresh produce, specifically vegetables.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP.
702 Drive, it's 3:30 still to come. We'll get all the sport with Anthony Teixeira. At 10 to 4, we're going to be talking about AI and its role in making popular music. Good thing, bad thing, mixed thing, all of that at about, in about 20 minutes time. I'm really looking forward to the conversation with somebody who is actually in the music industry and doing some dabbling in the powers of AI himself. Right now, though, it's time for the news. Here's Mbali Dlamini.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. It's still the breaking news this hour. The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has cut the repo rate by 25 basis points in line with some market expectations. The MPC met this week to deliberate on policy rates, marking the final meeting for the year. Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Kganyago says that decision by the 6-member committee was unanimous.
Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points to 6.75% with effect from the 20th of November. Members agreed there was scope now to make the policy stance less restrictive in context of an improved inflation outlook.
Inflation inched up to 3.6% for October in the latest Stats SA reading yesterday. While this is higher than the 3% average for the first half of the year, Kganyago says the pressure from non-core items is likely to be temporary, with inflation heading lower again from the beginning of next year.
Because of these downside surprises, together with a stronger rand and a lower oil price assumption, we have small downward revisions to our inflation outlook for both 2025 and 2026. We remain on track to deliver 3% inflation over the medium term.
The DA in Gauteng is calling for the investigation into tender corruption at the Tembisa Hospital to be expanded to include all other medical facilities in the province. The party has been picketing outside Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi's office in Johannesburg today, demanding the recovery of 2 billion rand stolen from the hospital. The DA believes that tender corruption within the Gauteng Health Department is widespread and affects most public health facilities. Delivering a memorandum of demands to Lesufi's office, DA spokesperson for Health Jack Bloom says the party wants answers.
This money was stolen from the poor, the sick and the vulnerable. It needs to be recovered from the syndicate kingpins who bought flashy cars and luxury property while patients suffer in dingy, understaffed and under-equipped hospitals.
In the Western Cape, the prosecution team in the trial of alleged underworld gang boss Nafiz Modak and 14 others has used evidence to show how Modak was the common denominator in the attempted murder of criminal defense attorney William Booth. It's the state's case that Modak used at least 3 of his co-accused to orchestrate an attack on Booth in April 2020. Modak has continued to deny being the mastermind of the shooting at Booth's home 5 years ago. Carlo Peterson has more.
State Prosecutor Greg Vormerans today showed the court how Nafiz Modak allegedly used co-accused Jacques Ronier, Ziad Pool and Zain Killian as instruments in a plot to murder attorney William Booth. It's the state's case Modak wanted Booth dead after he used a protection order to prevent Modak from allegedly extorting money from one of Booth's clients.
The roles played by Ronier, the roles played by Killian, and the roles played in this saga by Mr. Poole show that all 3 of these individuals, your co-accused, were your instruments.
Vormerans told the court the evidence shows the actions of the accused were connected and Modak was at the center of the crimes they committed. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
And in Pakistan, the army says security forces have killed 30 militants in several operations near the Afghan frontier in the recent days. It says the militants belong to the Pakistani Taliban or its affiliated groups. The raids come after a suicide bombing outside a court in Islamabad killed 12 people and wounded dozens last week. Pakistan has also stepped up its rhetoric against India in the recent months, claiming that the country backs militant groups, a claim which India has denied. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees.
Leaving Rivoli heading into the Joburg CBD, bumper-to-bumper traffic in Amalgam on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2, while in Bryanston expect about a 20-minute delay on the N1 southbound from Rivonia Road to Winnie Mandela Drive.
And it's the breaking news in EWN this hour. The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has cut the repo rate by 25 basis points in line with some market expectations.
702 afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
1 to 3 p.m.
What does happen if you realize that you disturbed something that you should not have disturbed by taking a piece or stealing, and now you want to make right?
One, you have to recognize the violation that you did. You have appropriated the object because you just took it for the aesthetic value. You have to go back and apologize to the communities. Objects are not about the aesthetic value, and that's what the West always fails to realize, that it might look like art aesthetically, but a lot of African objects were not just created for the aesthetics. They were created with a spiritual meaning and to anchor community.
Curator and conservator of African cultural heritage, Mabafokeng Poyane.
702 afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS LEGAL to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This festive, turn your family meetings into family eatings with the Nando's Festive Fill-Up Meal. A full flame grilled chicken, 2 sharing sides, 4 cheesy rissoles, 2 Cabo Societies, 2 Nando's rolls, and a 1.5-liter Coca-Cola for only $3.99 to enjoy at your place. And if your family meeting is at our place, get 40 Rand off. Nando's. Oh, what a place.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe are gathered for the B20 Summit in Sandton till the 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Every day, the Clement Manatela Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the news, views, and insights live from the B20 Summit. So tune in to 702 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
EWN Sport.
Right, let's catch up with the very latest in sport. Always interesting to see what happens when Rassie Erasmus names his team for a big game. Anthony Teixeira, who's going into the game against Ireland?
Yeah, good afternoon, John. Well, the Springboks have returned to that core of the squad that beat France 2 weeks ago, with only 2 changes from that one. Ruan Nokia promoted to the starting lineup for the suspended Lood de Jager, while Kwagga Smith returns to the bench. And in the back line, Keenan Moody is on the wing for the concussed Kurtley Ardenser. RG Snyman, who's named among the replacements, will earn a 50th cap for the nation when he runs out against Ireland Saturday evening. Meanwhile, there's wholesale changes for the All Blacks as they've brought in 13 players to battle Wales from the one which lost last weekend to England. Damien McKenzie getting the keys as he starts at number 10. While in football, Moroccan footballers walked away with the 2 biggest prizes at the CAF Awards. We had PSG's Ashraf Hakimi named Men's Player of the Year, while Al Hilal's Ghazal Chebek managed to win the Women's Award. Former Orlando Pirates coach Jose Vedo is back in the country after leaving the Buccaneers earlier in the year. After leaving Pirates, he had an unsuccessful stint in charge of Al Ahly in Egypt, where he was in charge for only a few months after not being able to meet the expectations of the job. After 3 years in charge of Pirates, he remains a fan of the club.
The fact that you work for a club, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will support them in the future. Maybe yes, maybe not. My case with Pirates is clear. I want them to win each and every match. I'm watching the games now like a Pirates fan and want them to succeed, to win. Just want them to win matches, to win titles and enjoy their football as much as I can.
And London's High Court ruled part of Felipe Massa's lawsuits against Formula One, its ex-boss Bernie Ecclestone, as well as sports governing body the FIA over the 2008 World Championship can continue. The former Ferrari driver can push forward with the breach of contracts. However, the court found suing for a declaration that he should have won the championship is not something it can rewrite. Massa lost the championship to Lewis Hamilton and is using Crashgate as the basis for this lawsuit. At the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, Nelson Piquet Jr. was ordered by his team Renault to crash his car by the team bosses to try help teammates Fernando Alonso win the race. That plan worked, with Alonso claiming the checkered flag, and Massa, who had led from pole before that incident, finished outside the points due to an untimely safety car. Anthony Teixeira, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Traffic's pretty jammed around the Joburg CBD. Let's get the very latest now from Karabo Charlie.
Yes, John. Well, if you're heading into the Joburg CBD, bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Amalgam area that's coming from the Riverlea area on Main Reef Road between Nazareth Road and the M2 in Calvin Alex roadwork still causing heavy delays. N3 southbound between the Petrol Interchange and London Road, while in Bryanston heading towards Four Ways, expect about a 20-minute delay. N1 south from Rivonia Road to Winnie Mandela Drive, and in Proteas Lane, traffic remains sluggish. N12 westbound approaching the R558. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 18 minutes to 4. It really is a very, very interesting day in terms of international politics. All of it centered around the G20 with the United States. If you haven't already heard the news, saying that there cannot be any kind of G20 declaration issued afterwards unless the United States is involved and has some kind of say on that. I'm not entirely clear what it is they're asking for. But the question is what's going to happen next, because South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has said, well, that's not going to happen. We are going to go about our business and there will be a declaration. And for me, the key question is not whether there is one or not, but who stands with South Africa on this issue. I think there are larger issues of diplomacy at stake than just the specific row that's currently taking shape. We'll talk about it after 5 o'clock. Coming up now for 17 minutes to 4.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Anthony Teixeira, you host people at your house, lunch, bride, breakfast, doesn't really matter. Dinner is a good example, though, because the next morning you're not feeling great. Your stomach's a bit upset. Do you contact the people you hosted to find out if they're feeling fine?
No, I'm going to pretend like nothing's wrong. 100% going to just be like, hey, it was just me, just my tummy, that's the problem. I'm not going to get anybody else involved. I don't want people to accuse me of being a bad host or a bad cook or something like that.
They might anyway, if they're feeling sick.
Rather that behind my back than to my face, because I don't know how I'll react to that as well. So I'm just going to keep quiet and keep it moving, honestly.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
As they say. Okay. Anthony Teixeira is very, very clear. He's not telling anybody. What would you do? Give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Dan says, repeated toilet entries by all of us. In black culture, we say, someone with a left hand cooked for us yesterday. Never heard that expression before, and I'm getting a shake of the head from Karabo Malapile. But anyway, please keep those stories coming on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's coming up shortly. We're going to be having a conversation about AI in music, and I'm really looking forward to that. We'll be talking to singer and songwriter Boa Bosch, who's got some very, very interesting views about whether AI should play a part. I was prompted, by the way, to raise this as a topic because I read a very, very interesting column by an economist at the University of Stellenbosch. He's an academic there at Marties, and he was talking about his own experience of using AI. He's made it clear that he's not particularly in the music business, but he went and used a whole lot of different software, and he produced a song which is actually pretty good, I thought. Pretty interesting, I thought. But that's just me. But we're going to be doing that in just a moment on 702 Drive.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Right, let's get into that story then. Boa Bosch is an art entrepreneur. He's a musician as well, and he's joining us to talk about this. Boa, a very good afternoon to you. You've written about this thing, and you've got, I'll read your first sentence. I'm very excited about the arrival of AI, or in this case, Suno, and you're going to tell us in a moment what Suno is in the Afrikaans music industry. Suno is the AI songwriting app that currently has everyone's feet tapping and emotions dancing. Very good afternoon to you and welcome.
Thank you so much. Nice to be on the show. Appreciate it.
So, I mean, you're coming at this from the perspective of somebody who is a musician. You have got involved with songwriters. I don't know if you're a songwriter yourself. There are people who have real concerns that anybody who may be musical or not is now able to produce very, very credible music. And that this is going to devalue the inherent craft of being a songwriter and a musician. What's your response to them? Clearly, you're very positive about this.
Yeah, well, I can only speak from the Afrikaans music side of things because I'm an Afrikaans musician. So I'm basically speaking from what I'm experiencing and what I've been seeing the last few years. But I think for me, I'm always excited when there's new things on the horizon that's going to keep us on our toes to become better writers, better musicians, better engineers. And obviously, music is a business as well. So whether you like the lyrics of a song or not, whether you like party songs, whether you like deep emotional songs, it's all business. It needs to make money. That's why we are musicians. And I mean, it also costs money to make these songs and music videos and so on. So when I say I'm excited about AI, the big thing that excites me is the writers. There's so many writers out there. That's real estate agents. That's engineers. That's people that never got a chance to get their lyrics out there. And now there's a way to get these things out. And I don't mean, but I know for a fact, Suno is not going to turn everyone into a musician or a rock star. But now you have the opportunity to write your loved one a song, or you write a song for a funeral for your grandfather. Like the stories that I've been getting since I've written the letter I wrote to News 24. It's people, farmers, telling them they wrote a song for their daughter. And it's just something they're sharing in between the family. It's not about like making a hit and taking over Steve Hofmeyer's position or anything like that. It's basically just to there's a new creative outlet to put music to what you write, and that kind of excites me. But from a business side of things, as a musician, in the Afrikaans industry, I mean, there's been a time where when you make money about writing about land and farming and being a farmer. We're like, half of us, we stay in Joburg in fancy estates. We're not even farmers, but we know there's money in that. So, but the public got fed up of that. They're like, listen, we need more music with more substance than just stuff about farming and land and people in short pants dancing half naked. So for me, AI is a tool to hold up a mirror towards the writers and the music industry to be like, listen, this is what we can do. You guys better step up. And I like the accountability.
So I mean, tell us how Suno works, because this is the app, the software, and you detail it. You say, for example, write me a country love song about falling in love while on a fishing trip and make it in Afrikaans. And then presumably there's lyrics to be added as well. Is that something you've actually done? And if so, tell us how it turned out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's as simple as that. There's two different prompt styles. The one is as simple as that, like I just told you, and it gives you the lyrics. The other one is you put in the lyrics. So you write your whole song down, and then you tell him the beats per minute, you tell him the genre, you tell him the vocal style. You give him as much prompts to work with as possible, and then within like 2 minutes, it gives you 2 to 4. Well, that's a setting you can set how many versions it must give you, and then you set but it's not perfect. So from there, you have to prompt again and go, change this lyric here, because the pronunciation, especially in Afrikaans, for English, the pronunciation is flawless. English artists can go mal at the moment, and they'll do well. But for Afrikaans, you have to spell the word different so it can pronounce it the right way. So it's a little bit more of an exercise in my language to prompt it. So in the song that I made, I think it was between like 80 and 100 prompts that you have to go back and change. And it's small little tweaks, and then so it takes time. That it also proves you that it's not as simple as like just typing it in and exporting the song and sending it to a radio, and there you're a musician. It doesn't work like that. It still takes like 2 weeks at least to get this thing going. But it's a lot cheaper. I mean, the website's like $8 a month, which is nothing.
So let's go back, because I did mention, Bauer, that I was prompted to give this some attention. I must admit I've given it very, very little thought up to now by a column. Johan Fourie is at Stellenbosch, and he regularly writes a column called Our Long Walk. You can find it at ourlongwalk.com. So he had a try at this. He's put together a song. It's called Wanneer, and he uses the artist name Koos Komper. So let's just hear a little bit of Johan Fourie. This is called, as I said, Wanneer, when.
Wanneer die machine jou fluister ek weet en die wêreld se stemme word vaal geraak, moet jy die stilte vind waarin jou eie oordeel leef. Want wat is in liefde sonder die hand, wat die ware weeg sonder die oog wat die lig onderskyn.
Okay, so he says, he describes how he did it, and it's very interesting, actually. He went to ChatGPT, first of all, for the lyrics, and he said, I want you to write lyrics for a song. It must be in Afrikaans. The lyrics must combine the wisdom of Rudyard Kipling's If poem, but it must be applied to AI. And in Afrikaans, the title must be Wanneer, inspired by Koos Du Plessis and Koos Kombuis. So there's a fair bit of creativity in what he did. And Bauer, I would assume you would argue there's a lot of creativity in what you and others are doing. It's not just saying, give me a song. You've got to have thought about it, the lyrics, but also the musical influences. And clearly, he was very clear about what he wants in terms of instrumentation for the chorus and so on. So, I mean, quite a sophisticated process, but is it the same as someone waking up in the middle of the night and reaching for their guitar?
Yeah, it's definitely not. That's why I think it's not going to replace those musicians.
Yes.
Just because if you want to be a musician full time, you're going to have to pack up your songs, get in a car, and tour, because that is where the money's at. Streaming in South Africa, I kid you not, you get like 0.2 cents. Like I'm talking about $0.2 cents, and that's nothing. You have to get like 15 million streams. This is the actual stat: 15 million streams a year to get minimum wage through a month, which is incredibly difficult.
Yes.
So it's not sustainable just to churn out these songs. And what happens is you can make these songs on Suno and pop them out, but you are going to have to decide one day to go out and perform them, and your voice is not going to match the songs that you made. So there's a big disconnect. So my fear is not that Suno is going to replace the music industry or musicians at all, because if you really want to be a muso, you fall in love with picking up the instrument, writing a song, writing what's on your heart. The AI side of it is a way to make your songs better, because what you can do is, so now I wrote my little demo song. It's just vocals and it's just acoustic guitar with my little poem that I wrote. Now you can feed that whole acoustic and vocals. You feed that into Suno, and you tell it to give you 5 different versions and 5 different genres even, and then it gives you it back. And now you can decide which direction to go. And now you can go book a studio, book your session musos. So it's more like a co-writer tool, which is incredibly talented. I mean, and it's the cheapest co-writer you can think of to help yourself become better. So I don't see it as a weapon. I see it as a tool to become a better musician and a better writer.
So Bauer, I mean, you made some really interesting points at the beginning, saying that this has so many different applications. Maybe it's your Omar's 80th birthday and you want to make a song for her. You don't have the ability to do that, but suddenly you can produce a song, put in data about who your Omar was, what she meant in your life, what kind of music she liked, and you can come up with something. And I get that, and I think that's a wonderful application that I've never thought about. What do you think, though, of a kind of younger generation who are already plugged into AI? Is this just inevitable that even those amongst them who are musical and would want to be musicians and probably will become musicians more in the traditional sense that I'm describing are going to work with AI anyway, that these are two streams, they're flowing together, and the more we accept it and the sooner we accept it, actually the better for everyone.
That's a great point. I think the younger generation, it's inevitable. AI is part of their DNA. I mean, take someone like Avicii, which is a world-famous DJ that passed away, but he only played a laptop, meaning he had to program each instrument with a laptop. He didn't play anything, he couldn't read music, and he made some of the most timeless songs of our generation. If you like the genre or not, those songs became classic hits throughout the whole world in all cultures and languages. And that was from a guy that just played a laptop. And a laptop comes from that's how music transforms, and how each generation you have to adapt with the times. Like it started with Beethoven and the piano and those things, and then new instruments came along, and then there was a laptop where you can have all the instruments on a laptop, and that's what kind of Avicii did. And people frown upon it because it's electronic, it's not playing real drums, but the general public, me and you, that just want a good song on a Friday night to feel good, or that helped me through my breakup, they don't care how the song is made. And that's the other sad reality, is with each new industry, there's victims. So the CD industry went away, and then there was streaming. Before that, the people that had tapes, that made the cassette tapes, they had to go away for CDs, vinyls, etc. So unfortunately, we're all somewhere along the line part of victims when it comes to industrialization like that, and we're unfortunately at a new point now. But like I say, it's not going to take jobs from musicians now, and I think kids coming up now is going to have to find a way to find their voice within the technology, and we're gonna see it. I think it's on our doorstep, and you might as well embrace it and be open about it, and just like try to fight it and not become better as well. That's why I say, for me, it's like a tool, as a mirror to look into, to be like, how can I become better with this?
So let's get one of our callers. Is it Maddie or Madi who's calling in? Madi, I believe that you used Suno. You wrote some music yourself, and you wrote it for somebody who's pretty well known. Good afternoon. What's your story?
Hi, John. It's Madeleine. Actually.
Oh, Madeleine. Okay.
Yes. So what happened was, there is this artist, I think he's from Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote this little piece that I used in the music about explaining why Tyler said she's colored. And then I used that piece, but I acknowledged him in the app. I used that piece and I put it in Sona, I think it's called. And I just asked it to write me a upbeat song about it. And then I put it together on TikTok.
Yeah, and then and you were dedicating that to Tyler because obviously of all the debate around it. Tell me, Maddie, were you happy with the way it turned out?
Yes, the sound was perfect. I must say, I tricked the system, so I didn't pay for it.
Okay.
So I did it, and then I screen recorded it to get the song, so I didn't actually pay the app for it.
Maddie, thank you. Very, very, very interesting indeed. So, Bauer, thank you very much for your time. I mean, we'll have you back and maybe chat in a few months' time and see how this is all playing out and developing. But Bauer Bosch, art entrepreneur and musician, he wrote a very interesting and lengthy piece. He described it as a letter, but I mean, it's article length. That appeared on News 24. So Google it, Bauer, Bouwer. You can get in more detail some of the things that he's just covered with us now. But obviously there's much, much more because he's given this a lot of thought. What do you think about it? I mean, if you love a song and then here it was kind of made by a machine, by somebody who knows how to program that machine process, but may not necessarily be a musician in the sense that certainly I think about musicians. Tell us how you feel. And if you are a musician creating, how are you engaging with and adapting to the age of AI? 0727021702.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Let's live more.
Bring your daydreams to life with Norwegian Cruise Line, sailing to over 400 exciting destinations around the world on 21 spectacular ships. Explore iconic landmarks in Europe, hop islands in the Caribbean, and much more. When it comes to dream holidays, think NCL. For the best cruise deals, visit ncl.com or contact your travel agent. Restrictions apply.
As South Africa assumes the G20 presidency in 2025, 702 and Standard Bank Group bring you exclusive conversations with the voices shaping Africa's economic future.
So the conversations have been good, and one of the key things that we've had to do is, in addressing that cost of capital conversation, is to really follow the principle of not just talking about our stakeholders, but talking to them as well. So engaging the credit rating agencies has been very positive, but equally, we've been calling out for the African sovereigns to do a better job in the transparency and the storytelling about bringing the visibility around a firmer understanding of the market, the economy, and all those considerations that would be key in how the market is understood and therefore the applied sovereign rating.
Brought to you by Standard Bank Group on 702. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
This is EWN.
The Reserve Bank announces a decrease in repo rate, and Brown Mokhotsi denies meddling in police affairs. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has cut the repo rate by 25 basis points in line with some market expectations. The MPC met this week to deliberate on policy rates, marking the final meeting for the year. Reserve Bank Governor Lesseja Kganyago says the decision by the 6-member committee was unanimous.
Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points to 6.75% with effect from the 20th of November. Members agreed there was scope now to make the policy stance less restrictive in the context of an improved inflation outlook.
Inflation inched up to 3.6% for October in the latest Stats SA reading yesterday. While this is higher than the 3% average for the first half of the year, Kganyago says the pressure from non-core items is likely to be temporary, with inflation heading lower again from the beginning of next year.
Because of these downside surprises, together with a stronger rand and a lower oil price assumption, we have small downward revisions to our inflation outlook for both 2025 and 2026. We remain on track to deliver 3% inflation over the medium term.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken several jabs at the United States government today, saying nations of the world should be viewed as equals and not be bullied. This comes as the USA boycotts the South African G20 Leaders Summit, warning government not to attempt to adopt a consensus declaration this weekend that does not include the position of the US. Receiving the declaration from the G20 Social Summit in Boksburg today, Ramaphosa said despite geopolitical shifts, inequality has to be put at the forefront of the G20 agenda. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
This is only the second social summit of the G20 program, initiated by Brazil during its presidency last year. President Cyril Ramaphosa has told the gathering that their inputs will direct the agenda of government leaders when they meet this weekend to chart the road ahead. In a twist on a regular refrain by US President Donald Trump when he speaks about South Africa, Ramaphosa said the social summit of civil society groups have demonstrated what global solidarity and inclusiveness are all about.
Beautiful things are happening in South Africa.
With the G20 representing 2/3 of the world's population, Ramaphosa says all nations have the right to be heard.
It cannot be that a country's geographical location or income level or army determines who has a voice and who is spoken down to. And it basically means that there should be no bullying of one nation by another nation. We are all equal.
Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Boksburg.
Parliament's ad hoc committee probing allegations of police corruption is hearing evidence on how a 360 million rand healthcare tender was awarded to controversial businessman Vusimuzi Kat Matlala. Police Divisional Commissioner Molefe Fani has been testifying on how Matlala's company Medicare 24 Tshwane was chosen to provide healthcare services to the police service. Fani says the tender included screening new recruits as well as tending to the health of current employees. He says he never knew that the investigating Directorate Against Corruption had flagged concerns about the company being linked to corruption at the Tembisa Hospital. Fani says no one on the bid adjudication committee raised a concern either, and Matlala's company was awarded the 3-year contract in June of 2024.
In the report that was submitted to the bid adjudication committee, it would appear that the bid evaluation committee had applied their mind and have made certain that all the relevant documentation and all the relevant requirements of the bid documents have been complied to, and in the report then they're recommending that the suppliers be carried to the next phase of evaluation.
To Pretoria now, where despite evidence showing his interference in high-level policing matters, controversial businessman Brown Mogotsi disputes he ever meddled in police affairs. Mogotsi has been undergoing cross-examination at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria today. Chief Evidence Leader Advocate Matthew Charleskinson has poked holes in Mogotsi's testimony, likening it to hearsay rather than evidence. Oren Singh has more.
In a message to suspended Police Minister Sento Mqunu, self-proclaimed crime intelligence agent Brown Mogotsi details how Mqunu and Shadrack Subia could take disciplinary action against crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo. Mogotsi forwarded a constitutional court judgment to Mqunu, suggesting it had implications against members of the political killings task team and Khumalo being project leader of the PKTT. But in fact, the judgment had nothing to do with the PKTT, and Madlanga Co-Commissioner Advocate Sandile Khumalo saw this as meddling in police affairs.
Here you are advising a minister to charge a senior general in the SAPS. I'm saying to you, that is interference in police matters.
Brown disputes this.
This is South Africa. There's nothing wrong to tell a member of parliament or the president or whoever about a particular problem.
Mogotsi continues with his testimony. Oren Singh, Eyewitness News.
And in Nigeria, a high court has found separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu guilty of terrorism. The ruling comes 10 years after Kanu was first arrested. Kanu has been convicted on 7 charges, including terrorism, treason and involvement with a banned separatist movement. He was arrested after he made a series of broadcasts to incite violence and killings as part of his campaign for a separate state in southeast Nigeria known as Biafra. The broadcasts were made through Radio Biafra, a station he started in 2009 that called for an independent state for the Igbo people, which broadcast to Nigeria from London. Gold is trading at $4,073.69 an ounce. The rand is at 17.24 to the dollar, 22.51 to the pound, 19.85 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.51 a barrel.
Heading into the Joburg CBD, that's coming in from Rivoli. There's about a 20-minute delay in Amalgam on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. Also driving through the Joburg CBD, traveling towards Boysens. There's slow-moving traffic on the M1 southbound. This is between Killarney Bends and the Crown Interchange, and in Bryanston there's bumper-to-bumper traffic N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive.
And in your sport, Rassie Erasmus turns to inform players for the Island Test, with RG Snyman set to become the latest Springbok to reach 50 caps Saturday. Marnus Labuschagne recalled to the Australian Test side for the first Ashes, and DR Congo is set to face either New Caledonia or Jamaica in FIFA World Cup playoff.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 13 degrees, peaking at 26. Pretoria 15 and 27, and Vereeniging 14 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has cut the repo rate by 25 basis points, in line with some market expectations.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
10 minutes past 4 on 702 Drive. Great to have you with us on this Thursday, the second hour of the show, getting underway now. Coming up later, we're going to be chatting to journalist, Washington-based, but out in South Africa doing coverage with Newsroom Africa, Simon Marks, about the standoff. I don't know if you can call it a standoff. It's really something of a row now between South Africa and the United States around whether at the end of the G20 heads of state deliberations over the weekend, a declaration should be issued, as traditionally there is. I don't know if there's ever been a year when that hasn't happened, but the United States is saying, well, no, not without us. So I'm simplifying it substantially, but Simon will build it out. Critical for me, and I'm sure he'll have something to say about it, is if South Africa stands its ground, as it would seem it is, President Cyril Ramaphosa unequivocal about his views on this. He is he going to be standing alone or standing with a small group? And does that make a difference? On the subject, by the way, of this particular issue in the G20 in general, Matt says the head of states not coming to South Africa is a clear rebuke of the lack of governance and, dare I say, lack of leadership in South Africa. The ANC has been hiding behind the Mandela and pre-1994 guilt of most countries, but now the reality is hit. The citizens and now other countries have sent a clear message, which is, and he puts this in quotes, get yourself together or lose a seat at the table that you were invited to when you didn't really deserve it. But Tutu's got a very, very different view on this and says, afternoon, John, what does President Donald Trump think he's doing? He's trying to bully our country. I wish the G20 members currently here will boycott the America when it is held in his house. That seems to be what Tutu's message is conveying. So give us a thought on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 12 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Hi, John and listeners. I really wish Donald Trump would get over his godly status. He's not a god, he's not a king. He's just a president. It'll last for 4 more years, and then he's out. The world goes on. The world will go on long after him. And when, if his day comes sooner, that'll be a pity, but hey, life will carry on. Byron from Joburg. Ciao.
One more contribution in response to our interview with Boa Bosch. If you missed it, a fascinating conversation with someone who's a musician, also involved in the arts more broadly. He's got a very definite view about the value of AI being used in the creation of music. And Albert responded to that by saying, from an engineer wannabe poet, Suno is amazing, referring to one of the apps that you can use. Goes on to say, I spend hours putting my own writing to music. As mentioned, it's a wonderful way to share. Knowing a bit of music helps to get the AI to learn what you want it to sound like. And if you missed our conversation with Boa, by the way, it's on primemediaplus.com alongside loads and loads of other stuff from the 702 day, week, month and year. So go and check it out and see what you can find. 13 past 4.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. SAA now operates 2 flights a day to Gaborone with morning and afternoon departures. Book now at flysaa.com. Joburg CBD, it's still a tough place to get in and out.
Heading into the Joburg CBD at this stage, John, that's coming from the Rivoli area. You can expect about a 20-minute delay in Amalgam on Main Reef Road between Nazareth Road and the M2. Also driving through the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysens. Expect the delays. This is heading towards Boysens. M1 South from Killarney Bends to the Crown Interchange, while in Midrand, traffic pressure N1 northbound. This is between Allendale Road and Samrand, while in Calvin Alex area, roadworks also causing more than a 30-minute delay N3 southbound between the Bakru Interchange and London Road, while in Protea Glen, Soweto, we still have slow-moving traffic. That's on the N12 westbound approaching the R558. And finally, in the Sunwood Park, Boksburg area heading towards Brakpan, roadworks causing some delays on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. For generations, the world has spoken about Africa.
More needs to be done to ensure that the prosperity is broadly shared.
Now, for the first time, the world's leaders gather on African ground.
This summit's location underscores the need for African voices to be heard.
On the 22nd and 23rd of November, the G20 summit lands on our soil. A moment where South Africa doesn't just host the conversation, we help lead it.
The majority of the 54 nations that now comprise Africa were never offered a seat at the table where plans for a new world order were being drawn.
From solidarity and equality to food security, poverty and climate justice, this is where Africa's voice rises, not as an echo, but as a force. And as history unfolds in real time, EWN, 702 and Cape Talk bring you closer to every decision, every voice, every detail that shapes our future. Stay with us and stay connected to the story being written on home ground, on air, on the EWN app, and on primemediaplus.com.
Take your leadership to the next level. Wits Business School, in partnership with France's top-ranked Kedge Business School, is launching the Wits Kedge MBA in Global Executive Leadership. It's a powerful new program designed for senior leaders ready to think globally and lead with impact. Join the online information session on 20 November at 5:30 p.m. to discover how this world-class MBA can transform your career. Register now at wbs.ac.za. That's wbs.ac.za. The Wits Kedge MBA in Global Executive Leadership, shaping global leaders for a changing world.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
In case you missed it, 702 was in conversation with Santam about Santam's partnership with the G20 taking place in Johannesburg.
We've got an opportunity because Africa has got the youngest population, and that there needs to be focused in terms of harnessing this critical skill. But Africa is also prone and vulnerable to natural disasters. So what we've done, for instance, as Santam, is use the same template of a program like P4R to actually expand some of the programs to countries like Namibia.
Santam is a proud sponsor of the G20 Summit. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer, and the controlling company for its group of companies.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Let's turn to this issue now, and while I'm not for a minute suggesting this had any of the seismic impact of what was said by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, there are some similarities that I think are important. First, let me set the scene. Now, South African Navy Chief Vice Admiral Monde Lobesi made a very, very powerful statement at the SA Navy Gala dinner last weekend. He was very, very critical about the defunding of the Navy, and I think by implication, or perhaps directly, I didn't hear everything that he said, the shortage of cash available to the SANDF in general. He asked whether those responsible for defense funding were perhaps influenced by drug cartels, illegal traders, maritime criminals, and human traffickers. That was then followed by really quite sharp criticism by Minister of Defense Angie Motshekga. She said his remarks were inappropriate, disingenuous, and that the Vice Admiral would know full well that all of this was receiving sufficient attention. Some pushback then on the minister, with a number of people, including the Forum for South Africa, saying that these are issues that have been raised repeatedly. Government hasn't done enough meaningfully to address them. This from Tebogo Mashilompane, who's leader of the forum, and said that people will stand with the Vice Admiral. So it's quite an interesting situation. It's a complex one because in general, people who are in government, and in particular, I think it's fair to say, people who are in the armed forces are generally very, very loath to step up, step out and make criticisms of this nature. And that's partly, although mainly, I think General Mkhwenazi's comments were about what he said and not just the fact that he said them. But how's this being viewed within the ranks in the SANDF itself? And for that, we're joined by Advocate Pikkie Greef, who's National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. Advocate Greef, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. Where do you stand on this? Do you think most of your members would say, good for you, Vice Admiral, it's time somebody stood up and didn't just speak, but did so with a loudhailer?
Good afternoon, John, and to the listeners as well. I think first, let's just be clear that the union doesn't take a particular stand with the Admiral or with the Minister in this case. We stand with the facts.
Yes.
Most of what the Admiral mentioned in his speech about, the decline of the Navy and the defunding of the SANDF in general. Of course, we know this to be general knowledge by now. For him to make those remarks in a public speech, that in itself is nothing unlawful or wrong with, or even inappropriate. I think where he overstepped the mark probably, and I'm talking from a military legal point of view, strictly speaking, where he overstepped the mark perhaps was connecting or implying that government is connected to, criminal syndicates, etc. I think the difference between him making those remarks in public and the Police General Mkhwenazi's remarks was that at least General Mkhwenazi had some prima facie evidence, which he also published at that speech. It's a very serious allegation to make, and to do so by merely speculating or asking the question for a senior officer in the SANDF, one of the 5 top generals in the Defence Force, that is rather, inappropriate from a legal point of view. Whether you agree with him or not, or whether you have the same thoughts with him is neither here, that he has is neither here nor there. For a senior officer to say such a thing, make such an allegation in public, that is inappropriate and probably chargeable under the military discipline code.
What do you think should happen next? So, and obviously in the mix, tell us what you think will happen next. Defense Minister Angie Motshekga has had her say. But if you were to strike a balance in your view, particularly with your legal background, Advocate Greef, as to how what you've just said at the end is acknowledged and dealt with on the one hand, but the issues raised by the Vice Admiral are perhaps taken more seriously than it appears they are up to now. I mean, what for you would be a good way forward?
Well, John, I think, everybody must just get back to a point of calmness at this stage.
Right.
I think in the first place, the correct course of action is that, of course, the military prosecution authorities have the discretion as to whether they think this is a chargeable offense or not. But I think a better path perhaps would be, given the fact that he is a good chief of the Navy, he has proven himself in his leadership role, and there is, this situation is prevalent in the Navy and the whole SANDF, and there's extreme levels of frustration among the ordinary rank and file, and obviously that reflects into the leadership as well. So let's just remember that these remarks were probably made in extreme frustration. That doesn't make them appropriate, but there are many courses of action. For instance, he can just be called in on the red carpet and admonished for his remarks and told to watch his step. But I also think it's an overkill by the Department of Defense to try and deny everything that the Admiral said and try and, it seems to me, to be making a case that if ever anyone says anything about the decline of the SNF, that would be disingenuous or inappropriate. I think that's quite a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, and if we go more broadly, because we've had you on the show a number of times in various contexts, certainly we were engaged with you regularly, Advocate, around the time of the terrible tragedy up in the Eastern DRC. But over the past year, are there any signs at all of this crisis of material and funds actually being addressed by the people who have the power to address it?
Unfortunately not, save for the the medium-term budget that the Defence Force presented earlier this week or last week, I think, where it said that by, I think, in 5 years' time, the defence budget will get to a certain level higher than it is, the 0.8 that it is now of the GDP. But, that's not nearly enough. It's not going to solve the problems that we're facing. What the politicians and those in power who decide about defence budgets, those people that the Admiral referred to, they must rather ask themselves, what are they going to do to arrest this decline? Why is the Defence Force being defunded? And why is it okay to keep it defunded? And why is it okay that if you try and fix it, to simply fix it on a basis that you'll say, well, in 5 years' time, we'll have a budget of, let's say, almost 2% of the GDP, when you're very well known and your planners are telling you that this won't work. It won't fix what's wrong in the Defence Force.
Yes. Thank you so much, Advocate Pikkie Greef, National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. Perhaps you are in the Defence Force, Army, Navy, Air Force, and you've got some views on this. I realize that you may want to do it anonymously. We'd be happy to accommodate that. But maybe your thoughts on what you felt when you heard what the Vice Admiral had to say. 26 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Problems out in Kempton Park. Rabo Chali with the details.
Yeah, the R21 southbound is closed off to traffic. That's in the Kempton Park area between Atlas and Voortrekker Road. This is due to the G20 delegate convoys. So expect about a 20-minute delay all the way from the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Also, the N3 northbound between Bedford View and Calvin is closed off to traffic. This is also due to the G20 delegate convoys, so please allow for extra traveling time this afternoon. Heading into the Joburg CBD, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's in the Amalgam area on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. Driving through the Joburg CBD, traffic is also a bit sluggish. This is heading towards Boyson's M1 South between Killarney Bends and the Crown Interchange. Midrand traffic pressure. N1 northbound. This is between Allendale Road and Samrand, while in Sunwood Park, Boksburg, roadworks also slowing down traffic. N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you choose the perfect anniversary gift, but they can ease the traffic congestion so you get to the dinner on time to make the celebration special. With the Outsurance Pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using hashtag PointsmenLove, licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman
on 702. EWN Business.
So 25 basis point cut, which is better than an increase and better than just staying where we are. Stephen Curtis has that story and the rest of today's market news. Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you, John. Yeah, I mean, the one weakness that you'll always see when this happens is that the rand will lose a little bit of value. It is down a little bit to 17, 18 rand to the dollar. That's not terrible considering it was a little lower earlier today, but it is what you would expect. As you say, 25 basis points. A lot of things going right regarding inflation at the moment. The governor, Lesetja Kganyago, saying their expectation is that inflation is contained. Still a bit of concerns around food prices. A little bit worried the rand might depreciate. The rand's been a bit stronger. There's been dollar weakness. That may be, but the other point about about this is that today's decision was a unanimous decision. And I think that also suggests that the Monetary Policy Committee felt very comfortable that it could cut rates in its first meeting with a lower inflation target. I mean, quite astonishing. But the writing's been on the wall for a long time. They said earlier in the year they were aiming for the lower end of the band anyway, and so pretty much doing what they would have done no matter what, is my understanding of that. The JSE All Share down 0.1% at 111,903 points. Financials up 0.54, industrials up 0.35, and then resources down 1.65. Gold slightly weaker again, the pendulum that we've been seeing, John, over the last little while. Mr. Price up nearly 7% today. Sales growth of 5.5% in the half year to the end of September. It says that was higher than sales growth in the comparable market. In other words, it's been doing better than its competitors. And this is interesting for lots of reasons. One of them is, of course, between Shein and Temu. We've seen other companies in this space, in the sort of clothing retail space, complaining about online gambling and things like that, suggesting maybe this is more about competition than anything else. They also expanded gross profit margins by 30 basis points. They say stricter cost control is working. We Buy Cars, another good day for them, up 3.85%. Woolies up 3.5%, and Redefine Properties up 3.23%. Something's going on with Redefine. And while Mr. Price is up, the Foschini Group's up 2.6%, and Pepkor is up 2.38%. Investec down 5% on the day. They grew at just 2.5% in adjusted earnings per share in the 6 months to the end of September. The bank says these are tough macroeconomic conditions. Also launching a new push to get mid-level corporate clients. John, interesting, there's a lot of competition there. I'm sure Standard Bank will be looking at that very closely and might have a view or two on that. In the US, lots of people, of course, looking at NVIDIA's results last night, which were much better than expected, and that leading to suggestions that actually there will be quite strong growth in that market. There was also a stronger than expected jobs report, and that from the Labor Department in the United States, and that also expected to lift indices higher as they get going through the day. So all of that coming through there. The gold price right now, $4,076.81, platinum $1,549.57, Brent crude $64.08. As I say, the rand to the dollar 17.18, to the euro 19.81, to the British pound 22.48. Stephen Krutis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Back with us in about 55 minutes' time. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news now with Mbali Dlamini, starting off in the courts.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The extradition case of alleged paedophile teacher Ian Wes has been postponed to next year. The 86-year-old former teacher appeared in the Simonstown Magistrates Court today on a UK extradition warrant. Wes is facing 90 charges related to the sexual and physical abuse of more than 60 boys in Scotland 5 decades ago. Ntutu Zelonene reports.
Ian Wes is accused of sexually and physically abusing young boys in Edinburgh, Scotland, where he taught in the 1960s and 70s. He was arrested at the Simonstown Magistrates Court last month as part of a UK extradition request. He was granted 10,000 rand bail, and the matter has been postponed for Wes to appoint a legal representative to deal with the extradition. The case is back on the court roll in January for a date for the inquiry. At the same time, Wes is also on trial for allegedly sexually abusing a pupil at Rondebosch Boys Prep School in 1988. That matter is back in court next month. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News at the Simonstown Magistrates Court.
Police are investigating the discovery of a man's body in a wheelie bin in Lotus River. The discovery was made earlier this morning with the victim still not identified. The police's Wesley Twig.
The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation and no arrests have been made. Anyone with any information about this incident can contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111 or use the mobile application MySaps anonymously.
To this now, a meeting has been held between Western Cape Premier Alan Winde, Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald, as well as Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis over the prevalence of prison gangs. The conversation centered around working together on a number of initiatives to reduce the ability of gangs to operate with in the correctional facilities. Late last month, 3 high-ranking gang members died and 2 officials were wounded in an attack at the Polesmoor prison. Wendy says further details from the meeting cannot be disclosed for security reasons.
We had a frank conversation around the efforts to combat gangsterism and organised crime in the Western Cape with specific reference to the prison system. The conversation centred around how we work together on a number of initiatives to make sure that we find ways to reduce the ability of gangs to operate with impunity within the province's correctional service facilities.
He adds that follow-up engagements will take place over the coming months.
It was a constructive engagement and we will continue working together. This is how we will bring down crime, by working together across all 3 spheres of government, making sure that we're getting the policing right, the violence prevention right, making sure that we're getting convictions in our courts, and then, of course, that the prison system is not enabling the gangs.
And a court in Spain has ordered Facebook owner Meta to pay local media outlets €479 million in compensation for unfair competition. The Madrid Commercial Court ruled that Meta gained a significant competitive advantage by running ads on its social media platforms. According to the ruling, this is in violation of the EU data protection rules. Spanish radio and television stations have also launched a separate lawsuit against Meta for the same reasons, seeking €160 million in damages. A similar lawsuit has also emerged in France, where around 2 media groups, including major television networks, as well as leading newspapers, filed legal action against Meta in April. A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 27.
In Kempton Park, the R21 southbound is closed off to traffic. This is between Atlas Road and Voortrekker Road due to the G20 delegate convoys. So you can expect about a 20-minute delay all the way from the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Other routes affected and closed off to traffic due to this G20. It's the R24 westbound between the R21 and Barbara Road, as well as the N3 northbound between the Gilulis interchange and Marlborough Drive.
The top story in EWN, the extradition case of alleged paedophile teacher Ian Wes has been postponed to next year.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Martin, you've called in your thoughts on the process the city of Joburg undertook to verify traders, with only 161 of them being approved by the city.
Most of these people who are selling in that we are hogging the pavement, they didn't have payment.
Here's a voice note on this.
Even in the olden days, in the streets of Joburg, late 80s, early 90s, people were trading. The problem is that now people are trading even in places where they are not supposed to trade.
Have no problem whatsoever with informal trading, but there are bylaws that need to be adhered to.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
702 was in conversation with Nedbank, discussing all the insights, opinions, and expectations of the B20 summit.
This presidency of the G20 was in a very deliberate way used to amplify the African voice and manage to reposition Africa from being just a price taker, or an implementer of international standards that are determined elsewhere, but to start being a co-creator, to start being a participant in decision-making when it comes to how we deal with global economic governance, how we reform the global financial systems and its institutions.
To hear the full lowdown, visit primemediaplus.com. Brought to you by Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit on 702. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Click season is different from any other ho. Oh? Yes, here's why. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker.
Oh.
And get the lowest one free.
Oh.
With the famous Clicks Purple Sticker promotion. It's only at Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth partnerships and potential on the world stage. Through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships, Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
EWN Sport.
Okay, let's find out what's happening in the world of sports. The team has been announced for the game against Ireland. Springboks up against the Irish in Dublin. Anthony Teixeira has the lineup and some thoughts on it. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, John. Well, the Springboks have brought back that match day 23 from the French test for this weekend's test against Ireland, with the suspended Lut Jager and concussed Kurtley Arendse the omissions. This means that the successful halfback pairing of the year, Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg and Gomez Zulu, return, as does the most capped midfield partnership in the Boks history, Damien Dialendi and Jesse Kriel. There's a backline of Cheslin Colby, Kanan Moody and Damien Willemse as well, while in the forwards a tight five of Bowen Fenter, Malcolm Marks, Thomas Dutoy, Eben Etzebeth and Ruan Nokia, with the back row which features Captain Sia Kolisi, Peter Steph Dutoy and Jasper Visser. Kickoff at the Viva is 20-8 Saturday evening. Meanwhile, the Wallabies will hand prop Angus Bell and centre Len Ikatau their 50th test caps when they battle France in Paris. In cricket, the Ashes will delight with the first test starting in the early hours of Friday morning. The Australians have recalled Marnus Labuschagne after he was dropped for the series against the West Indies in July. Captain Steve Smith says it was a tough call to leave out Bo Webster.
He came into international cricket and lit it up immediately. It's a really tough one on him, but I think Marnus, when he's batting at his best at number 3, makes us a very, very good cricket side, and we couldn't really leave him out after he came back and did exactly what was told of him. When he's batting well, tough to leave out, but hopefully he can bring that to the test arena now, and for Bo, obviously, he's the one that misses out, unfortunately.
Meanwhile, England captain Ben Stokes says that the Perth Stadium is still early into its hosting duties to tell what the right call will be at the toss.
But you can't win a test match without taking 20 wickets, so that's obviously something that every team tries to do. Obviously looked at some of the stats around the test matches that have been played here. There's obviously not been too many, but they've all been a result. So getting runs and taking 20 wickets are both just as hard as each other.
Switching to football now, where DR Congo will skip straight to the Interconfederation Cup World Cup qualifiers playoffs final after being one of the 2 highest ranked sides in the latest FIFA World Rankings. They set to take on New Caledonia or Jamaica in that final if they are to make their first appearance since 1974. While Bafana with their 3-1 win over Zambia just wasn't enough during this international break to maintain their spot, as they slid 2 spots down to 61st in the world rankings. Anthony Teixeira, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Coming up now for 18 minutes to 5, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you. We're getting into road closures now. Karabo Charlie with the details and some advice on what you can do instead.
Well, at this stage in the Kempton Park area, the R21 southbound closed off to traffic between Atlas Road and Fuatreka. This is due to the G20 delegate convoys making their way through them. So at this stage, you can expect about a 20-minute delay on the R21 southbound all the way from the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Other routes are restricted to traffic at this hour is the R24 westbound. This is between the R21 and Barbara Road, as well as the N3 northbound between the Kilulis Interchange and Marlborough Drive. Heading into the Joburg CBD, expect about a 20-minute delay. This is in the Amalgam area on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. Also driving through the Joburg CBD, there's slow-moving traffic on the M1 southbound between Killarney Benz and the Crown Interchange. Midrand traffic pressure N1 northbound between Allendale and Samrand, while in Calvin, roadworks causing about a 30-minute delay heading towards Germiston. N3 southbound between the Baclue Interchange and London Road, and finally Sunwood Park Boksburg, roadworks also causing some delays on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. majestic handling. A V8 horsepower that is... This is very annoying. I'm trying to read a car radio advertisement.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive still to come. We'll look at the standoff, the political row going on between South Africa and the United States around the G20. Also, a summary of what's happened today at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Another challenging day, I think it's fair to say, for Brown Mokgotsi. Oren Singh will give us an update on that. That's coming up sometime, as I said, after 5 o'clock. With the G20, we spoke earlier in the week about the way Johannesburg is getting, call it what you like, a spritz up. Somebody said putting lipstick on a pothole. I mean, they've different and differing views about that. But I thought, why don't we bring this home and ask you this? I mean, don't we all at some point, when people are coming to visit, maybe they're coming for a meal, they're coming round to watch a sporting event on TV or whatever, meet a new kid in the family. There's a dozen reasons why we have people in our homes. How much spritzing up do you do, Anthony Teixeira? And is there disagreement in your household where people, I've heard people say, hey, listen, everybody knows us. They know I'm a bit of a schlumpf. They know what my study looks like. I'm not tidying it up. I'm not going to pretend I'm not that guy. Where are you on this?
So much cleaning gets done, John. So much cleaning. And it's not, we have I would say we have a clean house. It's not like there's mess or disorder or whatever. But the minute we know somebody's coming over, it's all of a sudden, everything needs to be done from, we're going to do curtains again, also depending on which family member's coming over. We're going to do curtains, we're going to do windows, we're going to scrub the floor on our hands and knees. And you're basically working harder there than you are at work or any other time in your life. You are pushed to the very limits of your physical capabilities and beyond. And all of a sudden you'll be able to just, eat off of the floor and have no worries whatsoever. And this is what happens every single time somebody comes over.
Have you ever thought to pick up the phone and say, listen, Auntie B, I'm sorry, we need to cancel. We've all, we're not well, blah, 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 blah. But we'd love to see you tonight. Have you ever done that? Stop the problem before it starts.
I don't want to say it too loud, but I have done that before. Yeah. I've made the phone call where I was just like, I can't do this.
I thought, what's the most evil thing I can think of? Not for 1 minute, thinking that Anthony's...
I've done that. I have also once not cleaned and just taken dirty dishes and put them on the other side of my bed because you can't exactly see the other side of my bed from the corridor.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've also done that. Mm-hmm.
Karabo, you're going to have to step up.
Yeah,
here.
no, usually I'm like, what's the fuss? What's the big deal? But then my partner is always saying, dude, we got to have to make an effort here. So she'll make me work. Just like Anthony will scrub the floor. I'll have to do clean the windows. The garden has to be looking good. I need somebody to come help me, a gardener or somebody. But yeah, she goes extreme, the extra mile,
Yes.
to my annoyance sometimes. Because I'm thinking, it's just like relatives. They know us. What's the big deal?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to hear from you. I mean, do you do a kind of version of Joburg and G20 whenever you have guests around, or are you one of the people who pushes back? George, by the way, on the subject of the G20, says, why don't they have the G20 via Teams and just leave us alone? Come here for a few days and just disrupt everything. The traffic is horrendous. You can't do this kind of thing on Teams. I'm afraid you absolutely cannot, because there are formal processes, but I think a lot of stuff gets done when people actually meet face to face. And it'll be over by Sunday. I mean, the traffic hasn't been great, but there's probably some upside in terms of people who've had extra work. Certainly at the B20 yesterday, there were a lot of people very, very busy at there and presumably getting jobs. Godwin is also fed up, and I'll read his message in a moment. It's 12 minutes now to 5.
Drive Home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, it's day 3 of the B20 Summit, the official business voice of the G20, where global business leaders, policymakers, and experts come together to shape solutions for growth, trade, and sustainable development. As a lead sponsor, Standard Bank is helping drive these conversations, ensuring Africa's voice, priorities, and insights are front and center on the global stage. And to take this conversation forward, we are joined now by Gulam Balim, who is the Chief Economist and Head of Research at the Standard Bank Group. Mr. Balim, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. As I was reading that, this really occurred to me. We talk about the kind of Africa agenda, but really, is there such a thing? Because I would have thought that what Nigeria, as an oil-producing country, for example, wants out of global trade would be very different to what Botswana with diamonds and cattle would be looking for.
John, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. John, there are many common denominators that can safely fall into the bucket of an African agenda. So, for example, all African countries borrow on international markets. And if through this particular G20 agenda, we can encourage a situation where African countries find themselves with lower cost debt, then of course it enhances fiscal metrics and fiscal sustainability. Another area of commonality is related to resources. The continent is resource rich, whether it is base, precious metals, or even rare earth metals. And if we can help insert the continent and sub-Saharan Africa in particular into global value chains through this process, then again, there is a mechanism for, let's call it, collective prosperity.
I mean, if you look at the numbers, as I understand it, Africa's economic worth somewhere around $3 trillion. It's substantial, and many would say we're just in the footholds. There's so much more that could be done if we learn to climb. But in terms of attracting capital to the continent, as someone working with an entity like Standard Bank, you're in and around the conversations involving people who are keen to come here. What are they looking for, and what would make them keener?
John, if I could answer that question within two tracks. The first is just to recognize that for the last 80 years or so, there has been a particular global order that has favored the developed world. It has favored the developed world in terms of the rules of the game and favored the developed world in terms of the institutions that enforce the rules of the game. So, for example, the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, and even just norms and rules, for example, with regard to imports related to climate affected production. So those games and those rules have been, as I've suggested, skewed. So this agenda, and particularly the 2025 presidency in Africa, is an attempt at parity. It's an attempt to remake the global order, reset the global rules, and calibrate the world where Africa can be more participant and Africa can also be adjudicated more fairly and shed some of the what we call Africa risk premium. So that's the first sort of endeavor. The second is more operationally. One of the areas that your radio has carried via the voice of our chief executive, Sim Chabalala, is to say, we think that the international rating agencies judge Africa too harshly, that they are not appropriate in calibrating or adjudicating African risk, and Africa therefore pays a higher interest rate. Now, an interest rate is simply a risk measure.
Right.
And if they did a better job, which we believe they are doing a job somewhat inadequate, we would effectively be incurring lower interest rates, which then alludes to quite literally tens of billions of dollars of debt service costs lower, which can then flow to social spending, for example. But that's just one item. There's numerous other items that have formed parcel of what will eventually be the communique's intent with regard to elevating Africa's relevance on the global stage.
Has there been conversation about where there might be other capital markets? Because invariably one's kind of talking dollars and euros, I would think, if you look at the historical past. But are there signs that there are other sources of loans that may not be subject to some of the ratings constraints, unfair rating constraints, as you describe them? where we should be shopping and presenting our projects for funding?
John, that's a really neat question. If you go back 15 years, the capital stack then would have been dominated by government spending out of their own funds, because then there was still very good fiscal health, and private companies were spending with respect to their needs. It was a very small capital stack, as I say, dominated by the government on the one hand, and small private sector participation. Since then, in the intervening period, it is more from this, call it silo approach, to far more larger partnerships. So the capital stack today, of course, includes global multilaterals like the IMF. It includes governments within their capacity. It includes syndicated loans, what we more formally call the Paris Club, so banks internationally. It includes local banks. It includes private credit, in other words, private investors. A new source of funds that we have this year particularly been trying to entice is philanthropy. We think there's about $3 trillion of philanthropic money that can also be investing, getting a return, and doing good on the continent. And more than that, it's also been innovations with regard to the actual lending structures.
Right.
Not to get too technical, but we're pushing for what we would call blended financing, grant financing, project preparation financing. In essence, just doing all kinds of mechanics and innovations that can make projects that would otherwise be at the margins of bankability to make them more likely to succeed and get them over the line.
Finally, Mr. Perlman, I mean, your thoughts on this. You obviously want to highlight in any of these conversations, I would think, the extraordinary richness of resources on the African continent. But at the same time, I would think we would want in those same conversations to also see South Africa and Africa beyond as a source of financial instrument and fintech innovation, as a source of new ideas in all sorts of areas, and not simply providing raw materials. How do we strike that balance? Because there is an argument that as merely a provider of resources, that has been part of what has kept us as in what I describe as the foothills rather than heading for some of the heights.
John, I appreciate that many of your listeners will receive a very scant sense of what the G20 is about.
Right.
But allow me to say, and hopefully with a little bit of emotional tinge, that this process encompasses more than 100 meetings with significant role players with genuine intent. The G20 in South Africa is the equivalent of a finance World Cup.
Right.
It's 2010 with an emphasis on financing Africa's infrastructure and rehabilitation. So there has been particular programs, to speak to your question, that says let's elevate energy, logistics, renewable energy, beneficiation generally, and insertion in global value chains. So these discussions have been taking place zealously with partners that are looking to fund it, with the intent of inserting the continent increasingly in supply chains. So I know in your opening remarks, people are complaining about the traffic. If I could beg for indulgence,
yes,
all of this irritation, all of this annoyance, this was an opportunity that South Africa has genuinely seized, along with other African nations as our partners. And, you can almost call it a global north, excluding the U.S., throwing its arms around the global south with an emphasis on Africa, G20. And it comes at a time of great fragmentation, which is why the U.S. isn't coming. It's consistent in a sense of the manner in which the U.S. is framing transatlantic ties. But that also speaks to why the glue blocking in like-minded partners is this year's G20 that we hope will extend next year, regardless of the U.S.'s presidency as it assumes that role from December onwards.
Thank you so much. Gulam Balem joining us from the B20, which concludes its final sessions today. He is Chief Economist and Head of Research at the Standard Bank Group.
in the last 24 hours. This is what's happened in your world.
Members of Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into allegations of police corruption want action to be taken against forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan for allegedly threatening a key witness. MPs were angered by a threatening text message to Minister Senzo Mkulu's Chief of Staff Cedric Nkabinde last night during his testimony. The message came after Nkabinde's testimony implicated O'Sullivan in alleged police interference.
I received this message from Paul O'Sullivan. I am going to make sure you spend some years in prison.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
At Chamberlain's, there's something for everyone. From building supplies for the home renovators to garden essentials for the homemakers. From power tools for the DIY doers to painting supplies for the patio Picassos. We even have coffee for the slightly sleepy and snacks for the young ones. And for the ones who can never quite find what they're looking for, we have you covered too. With our promise to find and source whatever you need. Chamberlain's, famous for hardware since 1903.
The G20 Summit coming to Johannesburg is a stepping stone towards a brighter future for the city. Josie My Josie has launched the Babize Bonke campaign to shine a spotlight on some of the extraordinary champions who are reshaping Johannesburg from the ground up.
Hi, I'm James Delaney, an artist and activist based in Victoria Yards. For the last 12 years, I've led the campaign to restore the wilds, from an abandoned space to one of Josie's best-loved parks, with 40 acres of indigenous plants, waterfalls, and over 100 mosaics and sculptures.
Josie My Josie is making the invisible visible, giving the voiceless a voice. It's a movement for the people, by the people, creating a city that we can proudly call Josie My Josie. Come see how Josie does it. A city that's alive, ready, and rising. Prime Media and 702 are proud sponsors of Josie My Josie.
And Josie My Josie Babize Bonke champion James Delaney will be interviewed on Weekend Radio with Gugs Mhlungu at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
This is EWN.
Reserve Bank says 50 basis point cut was not on the table, and Brown Mokhotsi adamant his claims will be corroborated by other witnesses. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The Reserve Bank says a 50 basis point cut on the repo rate was not on the table when the Monetary Policy Committee met for the November meeting this week. The central bank announced its latest decision on policy rates today, where the 6-member MPC cut the benchmark policy rate down by 25 basis points. This means the repo rate now stands at 6.75%, while the prime lending rate stands at 10.25%. Nogukanya Mdambo reports.
Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago says the quarterly projection model continues to forecast gradual rate cuts as inflation subsides.
If you were to, for now, forget that the quarterly projection model is a policy guide and you were just following it and accept it as the 7th member of the MPC, the QPM had said is 25 basis points at a couple of meetings going forward, and it had like 5 points of 25 basis points.
But Kganyago says caution is still needed.
We are in a very uncertain environment, and it's important that we move with caution.
Today's cut brings the cumulative easing cycle in 2025 to 100 basis points. Nogukanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
The police's head of procurement has conceded that Vusumuzi Ket Matlala's company was not fully compliant with tender requirements when it was awarded a 360 million rand medical contract with the police. General Fani Molefe told the ad hoc committee investigating allegations of police corruption that Matlala's Medicare 24 had not signed a franchise agreement as required in the tender documents. Molefe was responding to questions around procurement processes in the police service before the ad hoc committee today. Babalondenze has more.
The ad hoc committee today focused its business on tender-related matters and Vusumuzi Ket Matlala's multi-million rand tender, which was cancelled last year. Evidence leader Advocate Lerato Zikalala questioned Police Divisional Commissioner Molefe Fani about whether they saw any red flags when Matlala's company was shortlisted. Zikalala also asked Fani about the company's failure to sign a franchise agreement since it didn't operate from its own premises.
What it indicates is that the franchisee did not sign, which makes the document not to be complete.
So doesn't that mean that a mandatory requirement wasn't complied with?
It would appear, well, it is not being complied to if the signatures are not complete.
Just to clarify, is that a yes?
It's a yes.
Fani says they failed to spot red flags about Matlala's involvement in the Tembisa Hospital tender fraud because due diligence was conducted elsewhere. Babalo Ndense, Eyewitness News.
At the same time, controversial businessman Brown Mokhotsi is adamant that the outlandish claims he's presented before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry will be corroborated by other witnesses who are yet to testify. During cross-examination, Mokhotsi struggled to provide direct answers to questions about his links to suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and criminally accused Vusimuzi Matlala. Evidence of message exchanges between Mokhotsi, Matlala and Mchunu have been interrogated, with Mokhotsi accused of getting caught in a web of lies. Oren Singh takes a look.
Claims of CIA operatives, coded messages and accusations of political interference in high-profile policing investigations from a self-proclaimed secret agent. The testimony by controversial Northwest businessman Brown Mokhotsi before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry sounds like something straight out of a 007 movie. And according to Madlanga Chief Evidence Leader, Advocate Matthew Chaskelson, Mokhotsi's testimony is on par with a James Bond script.
I'm reminded of what the villain says in one of those early James Bond movies, which is, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. We're at about 8 times, and you want us to believe that they're all just coincidences.
Mokhotsi could be seen fumbling, scratching his head at times, trying to come up with answers during cross-examination that was simply not making sense. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
To this now, the G20 Social Summit has called for the health and well-being of women and children to be prioritized and for greater representation of women. Delivering closing remarks at the summit today, President Cyril Ramaphosa said societies cannot be rooted in equality unless they uphold the rights of women and girls. His remarks come as women are expected to protest in Pretoria and Johannesburg tomorrow to highlight the issue of gender-based violence in the country ahead of the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend. Addressing civil society groups who have been attending the social summit, Ramaphosa explained South Africa's response when gender-based violence was declared a national crisis in 2018.
Here in South Africa, we do have a challenge of gender-based violence. And the women of our country are crying out that they need much more focus on the issue of gender-based violence. They need protection. They need support.
This led to the adoption of a national strategic plan to combat GBV in 2020 and the amendment of legislation for stricter measures against perpetrators.
We, in recognizing the plight of our women, we're now going to classify gender-based violence and femicide as a crisis that needs to be addressed.
And in Nigeria, High Court has found separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu guilty of terrorism. The ruling comes 10 years after Kanu was first arrested. Kanu has been convicted on 7 charges, including terrorism, treason, and involvement with a banned separatist movement. He was arrested after he made a series of broadcasts to incite violence and killings as part of his campaign for a separate state in southeast Nigeria known as Biafra. The broadcasts were made through Radio Biafra, a station he started in 2009 that called for an independent state for the Igbo people, which broadcast to Nigeria from London. Gold is trading at $4,073.68 an ounce. The rand is at 17.23 to the dollar, 22.51 to the pound, 19.85 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.52 a barrel.
Well, some good news in the Kempton Park area. The R21 southbound between Atlas and Voortrekker Road has been reopened and traffic should be back to normal shortly. That's following the G20 delegate convoy. You can, the R24 as well as the N3 northbound that through Bedford View has been also reopened to traffic.
And in your sport, Rassie Erasmus turns to inform players for the Island Test, with RG Snyman set to become the latest Springbok to reach 50 caps Saturday. Manus Labuschagne recalled to the Australian Test side for the first Ashes, and DR Congo is set to face either New Caledonia or Jamaica in FIFA World Cup playoff.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 13 degrees, peaking at 26. Pretoria 15 and 27, and Vereeniging 14 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The Reserve Bank says a 50 basis point cut on the repo rate was not on the table when the Monetary Policy Committee met for the November meeting this week.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
9 minutes past 5 on 702 Drive. So we have a standoff. The White House versus Steenhuis. Frame it as you like, but there's much more at stake than just a very now public disagreement between the United States and South Africa as to what should happen after the weekend's deliberations of the G20 are concluded. The US is saying that any kind of G20 declaration should not take place because the United States needs to be involved in anything representative of G20 views or plans. South Africa is saying, in essence, I think you didn't come. We got on with the business. You don't get to have a say at this point. Oh, and by the way, we don't like being bullied. Who's going to win this particular standoff? Because being right is only one part of the assessment that we might make in 2, 3, 4 months' time. Crucial to all of this, who's going to stand with South Africa, and if they do, with what degree of conviction? All of that to be discussed shortly when we chat to Simon Marks, Chief Correspondent with Feature Story News. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, of course, the other big story on a day of many big stories, I have to say. Oren Singh, who you heard a moment ago, joining us a little bit later for his summary of another challenging day for Brown Mokgotsi. It's 11 minutes past 5.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
I hope you are all doing well. Same, to be quite honest. I cleaned my place to the point where you can't even see a speck of dust. Mind you, earlier on this year, a friend of mine happened to come over with his family unannounced because a bus left them. So then, as a go-to friend, he showed up at my door. And mind you, my place was a mess. It was a point in time in my life where I was not mentally okay. But overall, they came over. I was so embarrassed. I tried to, make it look clean. But then the whole time in my mind, I'm like, what is going on? But overall, I make sure that my place is clean before anyone comes over, because come on, you need to see that I have things balanced, I guess.
So that voice note in context, I said, we're fixing up the city to host the G20. What kind of things do you do if you're having people coming to your place? Different views, as I said. Godwin says, I'm terribly peeved and angry with the G20. They come to South Africa. We get all our roads that we pay for disrupted for a bunch of parasitic politicians acting like tourists on high life. If the G20 was as important as it is made out to be, there would be a head office like the UN, World Health and others. We should never have a G meeting here nor in any other country unless they make a permanent office somewhere. Does every single organization need to be run in exactly the same way? I mean, why would you have a permanent office if you didn't need one? I'm curious. Godwin, maybe you want to add to that. Why is the office so important? I've seen so many ineffectual organizations with absolutely grand and gorgeous offices. I'm more interested in what people do. Taksin says, why be upset? At least we're getting things fixed in Joburg because of the G20. Also, this is good publicity for South Africa. 13 past 5.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. SAA now operates 2 flights a day to Gaborone with morning and afternoon departures. Book now at flysaa.com. problems all over the place, but Midrand getting its share, I believe.
Yeah, you can expect about a 20-minute delay in the Midrand area heading towards Centurion. This is N1 northbound between Ellendale and Samrand. Pulls off. Also traffic sluggish on Witkoppen Road between Main Road and Stonehaven, while in Sandton, if you're leaving the area, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on Greyston Drive between Rivonia Road and the M1. In Calvin, Alex area roadworks still causing about a 30-minute delay heading towards Bedford View. That's on the N3 southbound between the Butlu Interchange and London Road. In Ekurhuleni, Sunwood Park, Boxburg roadworks also causing about a 30-minute delay on the N17 eastbound between Osborne and Carnival City. Kempton Park, that's in the CBD. There's slow-moving traffic on Pretoria Road between OR Tambo International Airport and CR Swart. And in Protea Glen, Soweto, traffic is congested on the R559. That's Main Road opposite GOG Gardens. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Experience Johannesburg to Gaborone with comfort and ease. South African Airways offers premium service, convenient connections, and flight times that work for your schedule. Choose between morning and afternoon departures and enjoy comfort, convenience, and the warm South African hospitality that SAA is known for. For a limited time only, fly to Gaborone from 2,762 Rand all-inclusive return. This fare is valid for sale until 4 December 2025. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
How do you push for global cooperation with so much resistance from the United States? Can we do that?
You know, we have to soldier on and soldier through. We can't give up on this thing. Now, we can't stop the G20 because one head of state decided last week that he no longer is interested in this.
Trevor Manuel?
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Study your law degree at Regenesis Law School in Sandton or online and build a successful future with leading multinational corporations or launch your own legal practice. A Regenesis Law degree is profoundly transformational, shaping intellectually sharp, fearless warriors of justice and purpose-driven lawyers. Regenesis is Africa's fastest-growing education institution with 1,000 multinational clients across 12 countries and a faculty of 100 industry experts. Enroll now for your law degree at Regenesis Law School at law.regenesis.net.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
How's it, Butch? It's Jason here, your favorite gymfluencer.
Jason, still lifting more than your selfie stick?
Always, Butch. Gotta stay shredded, eh? But, I'm worried about one thing. What if a major illness hits? Who's got my back?
Relax, Jason. Momentum's critical illness cover is your spotter. It offers the most comprehensive cover in the market.
Buddy, I'm signing up faster than I could do 10 reps. But I'm worried about something else, eh?
Let me guess. How many protein shakes it takes before you turn into the incredible bulk?
No, man. Will anyone notice if I skip a leg day?
Chat to your financial advisor about Momentum's critical illness cover. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe are gathered for the B20 Summit in Sandton till the 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Every day, the Clement Manatella Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the news, views, and insights live from the B20 Summit. So tune in to 702 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's focus then on the G20, very close to the big events of the weekend. And we have a substantial row. On the one side, the United States sending out, some might say, an instruction saying no declaration by the G20 participants that is purports to be a statement on behalf of the G20, and substantial pushback by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that, we're not going to be bullied and we're going to go ahead and there will be, by the way, a declaration. So What do we make of all of this? Let's welcome to 702 Drive Simon Marks. He is the founder and chief correspondent at Feature Story News and in South Africa, working with Newsroom Africa as well in covering this conference. Simon, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. One thing for South Africa to say, we're going ahead. You can't really lead a charge if nobody is charging with you. How much support do you think there is out there amongst the G20 members for the position that South Africa is putting forward?
John, I think that is absolutely the crucial question, and it's always great to be with you on 702. I mean, as we watch just within the last hour or so, the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese arriving at OR Tambo Airport, I think the first of the world leaders to arrive in Johannesburg for this weekend's events. I mean, you want to ask him and every single arriving leader in the hours ahead whether they are on board with what we heard from President Ramaphosa earlier today, which was a very bullish prediction, not just a rejection of that diplomatic letter that had been sent to Durko by the US Embassy in Pretoria, saying, don't even think about forging any kind of declaration that you present as a consensus document. What you must do is release any statement simply as a statement from the presidency's chair, and don't indicate that everybody else was on board with it. I mean, so there was pushback on that, but also from President Ramaphosa, I think a very bullish projection about where the process is. He said, we're dotting the I's, we're crossing the T's. He exuded confidence about the possibility that by Sunday night, when this leaders' summit wraps up, the leaders that are coming here to participate in this summit will have signed on to language that allows him to release a document that he has talked about in the past as sort of having a significant consensus or a near consensus document. Were that to happen, it would be an extraordinary repudiation of the position that President Donald Trump is currently taking, not just pulling all US government participation out of this G20 leaders summit, but also threatening President Ramaphosa and telling him not even to think about issuing that declaration. So I suspect that the South African presidency, the presidency of the G20 summit, will be working overtime to make sure that leaders are truly on board with all of this language. And we know, for example, that French President Emmanuel Macron has aligned himself with the South African position. But I think there's open questions about some of the other leaders turning up here.
Yeah, it's quite a challenging thing looking at the list of some of the G20 countries, because I think it's fair to say Argentina, off the back of a huge loan to that country ahead of a really important election, is probably not on board, and they're not here. Brazil, I would put in my corner if I was a betting man. But then you look at some others. Saudi Arabia, for example, Mohammed bin Salman has just been in the White House, very warm public presentation of conversations, massive relationships on arms going the one way and investment going the other. How many of these countries would regard the position they take in the G20 as the most important position they take in regard to the US? Because I would have thought there are some countervailing pressures.
I think there's no question that that's correct. I mean, it would be interesting. We will find out, I suspect, in the hours ahead, whether Donald Trump put the arm on Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, for example, to oppose any G20 declaration. Remember that Donald Trump's not just opposed to the declaration. That letter from the US Embassy in Pretoria that was sent to Durko makes it clear that Washington opposes the entire agenda for this summit: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. In black and white, that letter says that those concepts are not aligned with US values, which of course means they're not aligned with Donald Trump's US values, because he thinks of them as being woke and, climate change. Just within the last week, he gave an interview to a British right-leaning TV channel describing climate change as a hoax and fiction. So in a whole array of areas, will Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman go so far as to embrace Donald Trump's position? I think the Argentinians are bought and paid for. They are sending a delegation here, even though Javier Milei will not be personally attending, the Argentinian president. The Russians and the Chinese will clearly be delighted to assist President Ramaphosa in drafting a declaration. What does Keir Starmer do from the UK? He hasn't shown much spine in terms of standing up to the US president so far. So it's going to be fascinating to watch, because now suddenly this becomes a litmus test, not just of the fate of the summit, but also of the fate, potentially, of these leaders' relationships with Washington.
Two scenarios, and there may be more, Simon, but I'll put them to you, and maybe you can tell us which is a better outcome. The one would be chairman's notes, chairman's reports. So in other words, well short of a G20 declaration, but with lots of muscle and important stuff said, because none of these represent binding obligations to a degree. I would think, I wouldn't call it performative, but it's statements of intentions. So that on the one hand, the other, where this thing is made palatable to the waverers, Keir Starmer and others, to the point where it is so watered down that you actually wouldn't want anyone to read it. Certainly not anybody who would like to believe the G20 is a force for change. Neither of them the ideal option, but which would be preferable?
Well, I think that the difficulty with the first option now is that President Ramaphosa today has raised the stakes. I mean, he's made it pretty clear that he wants a declaration. He's gone much further today than Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola earlier in the week, who was saying, it's going to be a high bar to reach to get to that declaration.
Right.
These summits, the declaration, the communique agreed by everybody in attendance, that's always the gold star. That's the brass ring. It's what you want to attain.
Yes.
So now, if they fall short of that, there will be fresh questions for President Ramaphosa about why he wasn't able to drive things through. However, the document, I think, that comes out of this, everybody will want, particularly President Ramaphosa, for this to be muscular, because they're basically putting a spade in the sand here, into the earth, and saying, look, sustainability, solidarity, and equality matter. And they know that President Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already said that in 12 months' time, when the next G20 summit is held in Florida, by the way, at Donald Trump's personal golf club, not Miami as they claim, just outside it, they're going to take the G20, as they put it, back to basics, by which they mean turning their backs on all of these concepts that they consider to be woke. So to emerge from this G20 presidency and hand over to the United States a really solid series of papers that say, not just to South Africa, but to other countries all over the world, these issues matter, will present the United States government with a bit of a quandary as it decides what it's going to focus on when it chairs the next summit in 12 months' time.
Thank you so much. Simon Marks joining us from Feature Story News, where he is chief correspondent. You can also catch him on Newsroom Africa, regular crossings on Channel 405. It's 26 minutes past 5.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
What does happen if you realize that you disturbed something that you should not have disturbed by taking a piece or stealing, and now you want to make right?
One, you have to recognize the violation that you did. You have appropriated the object because you just took it for the aesthetic value. You have to go back and apologize to the communities. Objects are not about the aesthetic value, and that's what the West always fails to realize, that it might look like art aesthetically, but a lot of African objects were not just created for the aesthetics. They were created with a spiritual meaning and to anchor community.
Curator and conservator of African cultural heritage, Mabafokeng Poyane.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
You can build a better future with 10x Investments, your guide to crafting a legacy the right way. Catch 702 in conversation with 10x Investments next Monday. Discover how you can secure your future financial wealth, one smart investment at a time. Don't miss 702 in conversation with 10x Investments next Monday on 702 Drive with me, John Perlman.
Scams are upgrading faster than your phone software, and Quishing, it's the latest update you don't want.
Quishing?
Fake QR codes that send you to unsafe sites. One scan, and they've got your details.
I just scanned one at the airport.
Scanning random stickers in 2025. Brave move. Close that browser window. Scams can happen anywhere. Stay alert, and if you're unsure, contact ABSA on 0860 557 557. Protect your money. Protect your story. ABSA, your story matters. An authorized financial services provider.
The crazy stores, the deals galore, and everything you need. From tinsel presents, wrapping, and a star for your Christmas tree. We've got all sorts of games and sports, many toys to buy. Stationery, arts and crafts, come on and don't be shy. No need to panic shop, we're your one-stop Christmas spot. Your table will be dressed, and you will not be stressed. When Christmas Eve is here, you'll want to sing and cheer. I got everything at the crazy store, and I can't wait for next year.
Hey, you never know what you might find this Christmas.
EWN Business.
So we had a red cut earlier, some trading afterwards. Stephen Curtis, markets moved by that at all?
Not hugely, John. Good afternoon. You'd expect the rand to lose a little bit with a rate cut, and that probably did happen. There are a lot of other factors involving the rand at the moment. Some shares are doing quite nicely, but the corporate news really is what I think's been moving markets today. So the JSE All Share down 0.11% at 111,897. Financials up 0.36. Industrials up 0.13. Resources down 1.2. Investec ending the day down nearly 5.5%. They did say that they'd grown by 2.5% in adjusted earnings per share. It's the 6 months to the end of September. Also launching a big new push for sort of mid-tier corporate clients, John. We'll talk about that on the Money Show in about half an hour from now. Goldfields and some of the other gold miners losing quite significantly. Goldfields down nearly 5%. Sasol down 3.55. Mr. Price up very strongly, John. 6.8%. Their sales growth 5.5% in the half year to the end of September, ahead of sales growth in the comparable market, also expanding its gross profit margin by 30 basis points. Their stricter cost controls are working. A strong day for We Buy Cars, up 4.76%, and then Woolies up 3.6%, and the Foschini Group, competitors of Mr. Price, of course, they're up 2.26%, while Pepkor is up 1.9% on the day. City Lodge, John, reporting an occupancy rate of 62% for the 4 months to the end of October. That's compared to just 57% last year. Food and beverages up by 16%. Listen to this. The B20 and the G20 are in town. Roughly, this is the moment when they kind of converge, right? City Lodge's occupancy rate last night was 90.7%. Incredibly high.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, so they're very, very pleased. Did I say very, very pleased about that, I think. In the US, lots of exuberance because of Nvidia's results last night, which were much stronger than expected, and has put to bed some of the fears about AI valuations. Also, there was a Labor Department report finally giving some non-farm payrolls data, showing that the US economy grew by 119,000 jobs in September. That's sort of double the estimates. The Dow Jones is up 1.28%. The Nasdaq's up 2.12%. The S&P 500 up 1.6%. The gold price at the moment, $4,091.63. Platinum, $1,550.45. Brent crude, $63.98. And the rand to the dollar, 17.15 to the euro, 19.77 to the British pound, 22.47. On the Money Show tonight, we'll speak to the Chief Sherpa of the B20, Kaz Kuvadi. We'll speak to Sim Chabalala. He's been looking at infrastructure at the B20. We'll speak to the Investec CEO. We'll look at interest rates tonight. And we will also look at automated trading and investment schools. So algorithmic, high-speed trading, all of those things. We don't really need a human. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Human pretending not to be a human. 7:02 drive, 28 minutes to 6. Bali Dlamini ready with the very latest news stories. What's happening?
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Well, non-profit organization Women for Change is confident key strides will be made to address gender-based violence and femicide following a closed meeting with government this afternoon. In the engagement, the organization says a commitment has been made by government to reclassify the scourge as a national crisis. Earlier today, during his closing remarks at the G20 Social Summit, President Cyril Ramaphosa reiterated the country's stance on GBVF, highlighting that it's been classified identified a national crisis. Women for Change, which spearheaded what is now known as the Purple Movement, has mobilized thousands of people to speak out against the abuse of women and children. The organization is set to hold a nationwide demonstration tomorrow, urging government to take the fight against GBVF seriously. Organizer Merlise Jochiat says a reclassification is a move in the right direction.
We just came out of a meeting with the ministers who have confirmed what the president said, and it's been very emotional. We're still crying because this is a long, hard fight, and for those of us who were victims, this validates our cries, and for the victims who still aren't able to talk, it validates their voices. The process is moving really quickly.
The DA in Gauteng is calling for the investigation into tender corruption at the Tembisa Hospital to be expanded to include all other medical facilities in the province. The party has been picketing outside Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi's office in Joburg today, demanding the recovery of 2 billion rand stolen from the hospital. The DA believes that tender corruption within the Gauteng Health Department is widespread and affects most public health facilities. Delivering a memorandum of demands to Lesufi's office, DA spokesperson for Health, Jack Bloom, says the party wants answers.
This money was stolen from the poor, the sick and the vulnerable. It needs to be recovered from the syndicate kingpins who bought flashy cars and luxury property while patients suffer in dingy, understaffed and under-equipped hospitals.
To the courts now, where alleged underworld gang boss Nafiz Modak has accused one of his co-accused, Zayn Killian, of being part of a conspiracy against him. Killian previously testified that Modak instructed him to track the whereabouts of prominent criminal defense attorney William Booth before an attempt on his life 5 years ago. Modak today accused Killian of lying under oath, saying he gave Killian no instruction to ping Booth's cell phone. Carlo Peterson has more.
State Prosecutor Greg Vormerans today questioned Nafiz Modak about why co-accused Zayn Killian testified it was Modak who instructed him to ping attorney William Booth. Evidence shows Killian pinged Booth several times before the attorney survived a shooting at his Ziegevale home in April 2020. Vormerans asked Modak why Killian was lying when he told the court Modak instructed him to ping Booth. Modak told the court he will call a witness to testify Killian was working for his alleged underworld rivals, the now deceased Mark Liffman and Andre Nordia.
So you will clarify to this court, my lord, he introduced Killian to Sam, to Andre, working for Liffman and Nordia. And Killian suicide on the day, my lord, in Joburg, that's when they had the fight. So Killian was working for him, my lord.
Modak told the court his evidence will show Killian could be part of a conspiracy against him on behalf of his alleged underworld rivals and corrupt cops. The matter will be back in court on Monday. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected, lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 27.
Heading towards Centurion, you can expect about a 30-minute delay in Midrand on the N1 northbound between Allendale and Samrand in Bryanston. Also, slow-moving traffic N1 south between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive, and leaving the Sandton area, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on Grayston Drive between Rivonia Road and the M1.
The top story in EWN, non-profit organization Women for Change is confident key strides will be made to address gender-based violence and femicide following a closed meeting with government this afternoon.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
10th of April 1993. Janus Valus walks up to Chris Honey's driveway and shoots 4 times. Retired High Court Judge Chris Nicholson says that story is only the cover page. In his new book, Who Really Killed Chris Hani, he argues Valush was the shooter, but not the architect.
Nelson Mandela favored him as his successor, and then there was another camp led by Thabo Mbeki, so there was keen rivalry between the two factions.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited. a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Step into a world of unforgettable experiences in Dubai. From luxury beaches to underwater adventures. From authentic traditions to futuristic museums. Make it a Dubai adventure to remember with Emirates. Fly to Dubai from one of 3 gateways in South Africa. Start your holiday the moment you board with delicious regional meals, complimentary drinks, and up to 6,500 channels of entertainment. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
In business, SMEs on the move need an ABSA Business Revolve credit card to ensure everyday expenses are always well managed. ABSA gets it.
You know, everybody's trying to make sure that they've got enough stock to meet client demand, but also balancing that to ensure that they don't have too much stock. And then, you know, really trying to make sure that they maintain profit margin. So we recognize this at ABSA, and I think this is exactly why we've developed this Business Revolve credit card product. And I think the key standout from a benefits and features perspective is that this credit card offers up to 55 days interest-free. So what that means is that a lot of these businesses will be able to buy stock now and only really have to pay for that stock in 55 days' time, freeing up that working capital.
702 Drive with John Perlman was in conversation with Pascal Albrecht, Executive for Commercial Issuing Product at ABSA Business Banking. Visit primemediaplus.com to hear more with ABSA on 702. ABSA is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. ABSA, your story matters.
EWN Sport.
Coming up now for 20 minutes to 6, the latest from the world of sport. Ashes cricket, Springbok rugby, World Cup football. Busy times, Anthony Teixeira.
Yeah, very true, John. We will start with the 74th Ashes as it gets started Friday morning at the Perth Stadium. Australia, the holders, after drawing that series in England last time and retaining the urn. They've won it outright 34 times compared to England's 32, although the English have a very poor record down under, only 5 victories, and their last win coming back in the 2010-11 season. Captain Ben Stokes spoke on that history.
The record of England, you know, over the history of Ashes series in Australia isn't the best, but you know, we've got an opportunity here over the next 2.5 months to sort of, you know, write our own history. We've obviously come here with the goal, and that goal is to get on that plane mid-January, returning to England, being Ashes winners. But we know it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be hard because beating Australia in Australia is not an easy thing.
Meanwhile, Steve Smith will be leading the Australians in the absence of Pat Cummins and shared his approach to the captaincy.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot over my journey, and yeah, the couple of times that I've stood in for Paddy, you know, I've tried to be pretty relaxed and let the game play, and yeah, obviously I've got to do it my own way out there and have my own style, but yeah, I'm a lot more relaxed these days, chilled, and you know, let the guys go about their work.
First test play begins at 4:30 in the morning. Meanwhile, the Springboks have recalled their heavy hitters for the Island test as they make 2 changes from the side who beat France 2 weeks ago. RJ Snyman will take his cap tally to 50, becoming the 3rd member of the squad to reach the milestone on tour. This after coach Rassie Rasmus took charge of a 50th Bok test and captain Siya Kolisi became a Centurion. In football, 4-time World Cup winners Italy have been drawn against Northern Ireland in the semi-finals of their European playoffs for the 2026 showpiece. If they win that match, they'll play either Wales or Bosnia-Herzegovina. Meanwhile, the Republic of Ireland take on Czech Republic, with the winner facing either Denmark or North Macedonia. The other matchup has Ukraine against Sweden in their semi-final, with Poland up against Albania in theirs. And first-time hopefuls Slovakia and Kosovo will meet with a potential final against either Turkey or Romania. In tennis, Spain and Czechia are playing their Davis Cup quarterfinal with it level 1-1 and the doubles on the go. Still to come, Argentina up against Germany, and the Professional Tennis Players Association said it's moving closer towards settling its case with Tennis Australia. The Global Players Advocacy Group, co-founded by Novak Djokovic, has accused the governing bodies of being a cartel that imposes a non-stop schedule and underpays players. In a class action lawsuit filed in March, it said that they indulge in anti-competitive practices and disregard player welfare. Anthony Teixeira, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. At 17 minutes to 6, let's find out what the roads look like. Sandton is busy. And Karabo Charlie has the details of that and all the rest.
Yes, John, bumper-to-bumper traffic leaving the Sandton area. This is on Greyston Drive between Rivonia Road and the M1. Kramerville still in Sandton. Also expect some delays on South Road between Rivonia Road and Marlborough Drive. In Bryanston, there's a slow-moving traffic on the N1 southbound from Rivonia Road to Winnie Mandela Drive, while in the Midrand you can expect about a 30-minute delay on the N1 northbound from Allendale Road to Samrand. Calvin, Alex area roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay on the N3 in both directions. This is between the Patrol Interchange and London Road. In Sunwood Park, Boksburg area roadworks also causing more than an hour delay heading towards Brakpan on the N17 eastbound between Osborne and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a family driving to their new home, carrying boxes stacked with plates and toys and memories. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a new beginning, a fresh start on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's get straight into what happened at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today. Brown Mokhotsi, I think this was day 3 for him, arguably his most difficult day, because the bits I watched, and I watched quite a bit actually, thought of calling in sick and saying, sorry, I have an addiction to this, because it really was quite riveting to watch the way in which the evidence leader, Matthew Chaskelson, was going through literally line by line a whole lot of voice notes and not voice notes, phone call records, text messages, WhatsApp messages, and some on Signal as well. But yeah, challenging time, I think, for Brown Mokhotsi. Oren Singh, our EWN reporter, joins us now for his take on what happened today. Oren, a very good afternoon to you. We'll talk about Brown Mokhotsi himself in a moment, but it did strike me that this is raising some very awkward issues for the suspended police minister, Senzo Mchunu. Certainly his characterization of his relationship with Brown Mokhotsi doesn't really chimes, for me at least, with what appears to be a very extended conversation and engagement.
Definitely, John, and I think a lot of people, including Senzo Mchunu and the likes of possibly Major General Feroz Khan, were sitting and watching this thinking that what is this guy putting us through? Because essentially he's digging a bigger hole. Initially we thought he was digging himself a big grave, but he's dug one for the likes of Senzo Mchunu and Feroz Khan and possibly even Shadrach Sabia to come and answer to, because we know that when Senzo Mchunu appeared before the ad hoc committee, he claimed that he had spoken to Brown, he only knows him as a comrade, but we saw them going through quite in-depthly messages between Brown Mokhotsi and Senzo Mchunu, both on WhatsApp and Signal Messenger. And they went through message by message, trying to understand what the context of some of these messages were, because to some extent, John, they were very coded. You couldn't outright say what he was trying to get across, but it seemed like there was some sort of relationship there, and it seems like Brown Mokhotsi was facilitating some sort of funding for Senzo Mchunu's presidential ambitions, presidential campaign, but he labels it as facilitating funding for a charity on behalf of Senzo Mchunu, the Senzo Mchunu Foundation. So we saw him go through a lot today, but I think if I must just add to that, it's a lot of what we saw him go through on Tuesday, and he couldn't answer on Tuesday. On Wednesday, yesterday, we had a late start to the commission because they wanted to allow Brown Mokhotsi or afford him more time to consult with his attorneys and go through the evidence bundle. But when we saw him come today and answer some of the same questions that were put to him on Tuesday, still the still the same outcome there, John. He wasn't able to answer those directly.
So, Oren, I mean, in terms of Brown Mokhotsi and his own situation, my sense is this is awkward for him, but he doesn't really face loss of a political position. I don't know if there's anything that you've noticed or identified that would suggest he might be liable for some kind of criminal prosecution, but the stakes for the minister, for example, for someone like Shadrach Sabir, who is currently still holding a position in the police, although that is subject to certain limitations. But the stakes for them would be way higher than for him. I mean, in a way, would it be fair to say he can put this behind him when it's all done?
I think so, John. He's far better off than some of the other witnesses that are still to come and testify, the likes of Senzo Mtunu and Shadrach Sabir, who both, I presume, are still wanting to maintain their innocence in all of this and possibly be reinstated in their relative positions. For Brown Mokhotsi, it's a bit different because here's someone who isn't got an official position within government. He claims he's a businessman, claims he's a crime intelligence agent, but admits that following his testimony, he's possibly not likely going to maintain that position of being a crime intelligence agent or an alleged crime intelligence agent. So yes. I think a lot for everyone else to lose, and I think Brown Mokhotsi essentially has put certain people into a very difficult position and into a corner where they have their backs to the wall and are going to have to kick and fight to get out of there.
Well, the kicking and fighting is going to go on the Madlanga Commission. I mean, it's been very, very interesting to watch today. Maybe you watch, maybe you've got some views. 072 7021 702 10 to 6.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
So we always do some music at the end of the show, and today's theme is looking at different instruments that get used in the production of popular music. Now, we've spoken in the past about favorite songs where the piano is a very prominent instrument. We've done saxophone. I don't think we've done the trumpet yet. We've done a couple of others as well. But today we thought we'd bring in a classical instrument that has found its way to great effect on some absolutely fabulous popular songs. So songs where the violin is used, or violins. And in the era of AI, there's always the possibility that the violins are produced from a computer. But we're not going to get into that. It's a conversation we had a little bit earlier about AI and music, which you can pick up on primediaplus.com if you want to read about it. But let's get straight into it with this one by Celine Dion, To Love You More.
To the arms I love, lead me like you did before. Touch me once again and remember when there was no one that you wanted more. Don't go. You know you break my heart. She won't love you like I will. I'm the one who'll stay when she walks away. And you know I'll be standing here still.
So many things going into some of the brilliant music that Celine Dion did here in the case of To Love You More. We got some violins as well. So give us your suggestions, please. I see we've got a few already coming in. Give us a call on 011 8830 702 or 072 702 1702. Songs enlivened, enriched, and made more beautiful by the use of violins. Your suggestions, please.
In in the last 24 hours. This is what's happened in your world.
Members of Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into allegations of police corruption want action to be taken against forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan for allegedly threatening a key witness. MPs were angered by a threatening text message to Minister Senzo Mkunu's Chief of Staff Cedric Nkabinde last night during his testimony. The message came after Nkabinde's testimony implicated O'Sullivan in alleged police interference.
I received this message from Paul O'Sullivan. I am going to make sure you spend some years in prison.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
For over a decade, Illuma Capital has had one simple mission: to help you secure the financial future you deserve. Over the past 10 years, they've empowered thousands of clients with personalized strategies, expert advice, and impressive returns of up to 13.2%. Whether it's growing wealth, securing retirement, or planning for the unexpected, Illuma Capital is there every step of the way. Visit illuma.co.za today. Illuma Capital is a licensed FSP. T's and C's apply.
Experience a unique musical journey as the Mzansi National Philharmonic Orchestra presents its national tour, featuring legendary conductor Marin Alsop and homegrown global sensation Abel Selauchwe. The program includes Selauchwe's Four Spirits Cello Concerto, paired with Rachmaninoff's Romantic Symphony No. 2. Concerts take place at the Linda Auditorium on Wednesday the 10th and Thursday the 11th of December. Book your tickets now at Quicket.
For 3 consecutive years, Nedbank has been recognized as the best investment bank in South Africa at the Global Banking and Finance Review Awards. Whether helping clients navigate cross-border risks or building financing frameworks that support market reform, Nedbank is a partner in more than just capital. We're part of the architecture supporting Africa's renewable energy future. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
702 Drive, songs that are enriched and enlivened by wonderful use of violins and string instruments in general. Like if there's a cello in the mix, I'm not going to complain. And Ntsikelelo refers to this one by The Cause, who I think are going to be coming to South Africa next year, if I'm not mistaken. They've been before, and refers to the song Runaway, Runaway by The Cause. I think I know it, and I do like it. I'm not going to sing it for you. Robert goes back to The Cause again and says, anything by The Cause, since they're visiting South Africa soon. Sharon is the sibling that plays the violin. That's Robert's suggestion. So The Cause getting quite a good bit of press. This one goes way back. I've forgotten about Terence Trent D'Arby, and Harry says we should be listening to a song called Sign Your Name. Let's hear your voice notes.
Hi, Uncle John. Lolly here from Pretoria. Viva la Vida from Coldplay. The song opens with an orchestra of violins. Just beautiful and so uplifting. It's mine, my son's favorite song. Have a good evening.
Coldplay from 2008, Viva la Vida, nice one. This one from Lee, who says, one of my favorite songs in which they beautifully use the violin instrument is definitely a song by Bobby Valentino titled Tell Me. Don't know that one? I will add it to my list of songs to check up on. I love that about this feature that we do, by the way. A lot of people come up with songs that I then go and Google and have a little listen to and add to the playlist that I keep. So thank you for that.
3 to 6 p.m.
Dr. John, I'm not sure if I remember the name of the song, but it was The Cause. I think the name of the band is The Cause. The song was like, say it's true, there's nothing like me and you.
Say it's true, there's nothing like me and you. I'm not alone. Tell me you feel it too, and I would run away. I would run away. Yeah, yeah. I would run away. I would run away with you. 'Cause
Sound of the Cause there. Very, very nice. And yeah, they are coming to South Africa. I don't know the tour dates. We can look them up, or you can look them up. So many people are on the internet planning to go. Never seen them before. Brad says, the sampled strings in Fatboy Slim's Right Here, Right Now. Such a great tune. And Tabang from Enidale says, I think the Verve Bittersweet Symphony has the violin as its main driving instrument. It is a 90s classic.
Hi, John. Nothing but strings, nothing but strings. Broken sorrows. Ah, that's nothing but strings, baby.
Turn me up a little bit.
Yeah, I wish we had more time for this, but we are out of time. We're going to play out right now because it's time for The Money Show. I'm John Perlman. From all of us, good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. The B20 wraps up in Sandton with